September 19th, 2023. It is 9 a.m. We are here for the hearing examiner hearings. I'm calling the hearings to order at this time. Before we start the hearings proper, I am going to announce a change in the agenda. We're going to proceed with case number A, and I'm just going to read the applicant's name. And of course, the clerk will call the case at the appropriate time. We're going to proceed with case number A. The applicant is Nelson Pinney. Then will be number B, which is Curtis Kruger. I apologize. We will then be proceeding with case number E, like an elephant. The applicant is Herma Prasad Kasareddy. I apologize if I've mangled your name. I probably have, and I apologize. And then we will proceed with case number F, which is Duplex Resort Park LLC with Mr. Mazurkowitz. We will then go back to case number C, as in Charlie, and that would be the applicant is Wade Light. And then we will proceed with case number D, which is the applicant is Coral Lakes Southwest Florida LLC. The reason for that is that we have received some public comment on the rezoning, and I would like those folks to have an opportunity to speak without having other obligations that would require them to leave. I'm sorry, sir, I cannot take any comment. Maybe the clerk could go over, and if you had a question about the process. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh my goodness, my mother'd be so proud. She always said when I was a kid I had a big mouth. So I apologize. All right, let me just quickly review that again. Thank you, John, for turning up the mic. Case number A is first, which is Nelson Pinney. Case B, which is Curtis Kruger. Case E, like in elephant, I'll have another opportunity to mess up this person's name, Hema Prasad Kasareddy. And case F, which is Duplex Resort Park LLC, which is Mr. Mazurkowitz will be next. That is F, and then we'll go back to case C, as in Charlie. The applicant is Wade Light, and then we will go to case D, which the applicant is Coral Lakes Southwest Florida LLC. The reason for that is that I have received some public comment regarding the rezoning, and I would like you folks to have an opportunity to speak. Sometimes we find that people have to leave before the hearings are over, and obviously everyone's input is important today. So, having said that, let me get right into the hearing process. I'd like to make a few comments prior to the hearings themselves starting. And the reason for that is the process followed in the City of Cape Coral is a little bit different than the process followed in other jurisdictions. In our process, the clerk will read the introduction to the case. The clerk will then swear in anyone who is testifying. The city staff will testify regarding compliance with public notice. If public notice is found to have properly occurred, we proceed with the hearing. If it has not been found to have properly occurred, we will take an alternate route. Following compliance with public notice, the applicant will go first and present their entire case. The city staff will go second and present their entire case. Public comment is next. Once it's closed, it will not be reopened. If you are here for public comment, please make sure your comments are comprehensive, because you will not have an opportunity, as I've just mentioned, to speak again once public comment is closed. Following the closure of public comment, the applicant responds to questions, makes any final comments. Staff will do the same, and the hearing is concluded. If you have a cell phone with you today, please turn it off or silence it if you can, and take any cell phone conversations outside the room if possible. If you wish to have private conversations, please move away from the lectern so we do not accidentally record your conversation. If we do so record your conversation, it becomes a public record and available to anyone to listen to. If you have a comment to make today, please come to the microphone. Any comment from your seat will not be recognized or honored. All testimony must be under oath. Members of the public are requested to go to the microphone on the podium on my left, your right. It has the same full video and audio capability as the microphone, which is adjacent to it. Anyone who provides testimony other than the applicant and staff is requested to fill out a public participation card so we can properly spell your name. Also, if you wish a copy of the hearing examiner recommendation or order, as the case may be, please do provide your email contact information. Please be advised, though, if you do provide your email contact information, it becomes public record at that time. With those preliminary comments, I'm going to turn it over to the clerk to call case number A. Thank you. John, I think we have an issue.
Case number VP 21-016, address 1933 Southeast 2nd Street and 204 Southeast 20th Place. Applicant Nelson Piney. This plat vacation application was initiated by the owners of property at 1933 Southeast 2nd Street. The request is to vacate 2,000 square feet of street right-of-way on a hammerhead cul-de-sac between their property and 204 Southeast 20th Place. The vacation will enlarge the area of both properties. Additionally, 354 square feet of platted easements are requested to be vacated on lots 1 and 2, block 1339, and 354 square feet of platted easements on lot 32, block 1338. The vacation will provide the owners of 1933 Southwest 2nd Street with greater flexibility in designing and constructing a new single-family home and driveway on the side. Underlying easements in the vacated right-of-way will be retained by the city. The city will also retain new easements that will be sufficient for maintaining a continuous public utility and drainage easement around each site. Any persons giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
This is only for this hearing, folks. Each hearing gets an individual swearing in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner Justin Heller, Senior Planner with the Cape Coral Planning Division. Just want to, I don't know what's going on with this mic, but
Maybe
want
if
to
you point it
testify
up a
that
little bit.
this case has been properly noticed, and we have an ad run in the local newspaper, a sign posted on the site, and mailings sent out to all properties within 500 feet.
Thank you. I will find the proper notice was given.
Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the applicant up, please? Thank you. Is Mr. Penny here?
You saying?
Is Mr. Penny here?
Yes.
Please come up, sir. Thank you. We appear to be having microphone issues today, sir.
Evidently.
Thank you. This is your opportunity, sir. Were you sworn in?
Yes.
All right, this is your opportunity to present your case regarding the vacation. Thank you.
This is a vacation from 2021. It's been going on for a couple of years, so there's been a lot of effort and a lot of investigation into it. And what I'm attempting to do, I assume this is,
I think Mr. Struve will give you a hand there, sir. Thank you.
good. Good, thanks. This is a nice piece of property that I own, and I plan to build my last hurrah after being here in Cape Coral for 40 years. This is a two-canal property. It's totally seawalled, but it has a unusual distinction of being called a hammerhead lot. And this is the hammerhead right here. And the attempt to vacate this end of the street is what is being proposed. And my surveyor drew this up, and so here's the original hammerhead, and then this is the part to be vacated. I get to vacate this part, and I have to share it with my neighbor over here. This is the end of the street. And the reason that this is all taking place is so that I can not have to, this is the proposed outline of the house that I have drawn. And the way things are, if things stay the same, I would have to back out of the garage out onto this little piece of Second Street and then make my way down Second Street. What I'm proposing is to put in a circular driveway so that I can come out of the garage, go around the driveway and out the street. Now, I've read over the recommendations of the standards. I don't think it's necessary to read through them all again, but basically, it's summarized in the first part that the right-of-way is relatively small area, and this proposed 2,000 square feet, of which I have to share with my neighbor, which I am totally financing, is all approved, or not necessarily approved, but yeah, approved by the staff. And the staff is, like I say, it's been going on for a couple of years, so they've put a lot of effort into it. So if you would like, I would read all of the standards that they have approved, but I suspect that you're familiar with those.
I suspect I am as well, but my suggestion is, if you agree with the staff report, sir,
Oh, yes.
you can incorporate that this morning into your presentation. Is that-
Yes, I totally agree with the staff reports, all numbered items here. There's 5 that I have.
Yes,
And
sir.
that-
The staff will be covering them in his presentation.
And I agree with the conditions of approval, because they're giving up some right-of-way, and that I have to agree that a new right-of-way will exist, a 6-foot right-of-way.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have no other questions. Thank you very much. All right. Mr. Heller? Thank you.
Again, for the record, Justin Heller, Senior Planner with the Cape Coral Planning Division. This is a vacation of plat for 1933 Southeast 2nd Street. They're requesting to vacate 2,000 square feet of street right-of-way, 354 square feet of platted easements in lots 1 and 2, and 354 square feet of platted easements in lot 32. The vacation was initiated by the owner of 1933 Southeast 2nd Street. The adjacent owner has given a letter of no objection to the requests. Both these properties have R1 zoning with single-family future land use classification. As Nelson pointed out, here's a sketch of the area to be vacated and an aerial showing the approximate location here as well, highlighted in blue. So we analyze this under section 3.4.5B. Our first standard, we find the right-of-way to be vacated as small. At the end of a dead-end street, the right-of-way will not eliminate access to any property. The easements underlying the right-of-way will remain for future utility access, and the right-of-way is not needed to provide a future transportation, public access, or other public benefit. Section 3.4.5B, Standard 2, we find the easements underlying the right-of-way are going to remain, and we will also retain 6-foot wide public utility and drainage easements around each expanded site. Standard 3, we find each owner will maintain right-of-way access to their respective site. There will be no alternative routes required, and this vacation should have no adverse impacts to the surrounding area. Standard 4, we find the vacation will not impede the ability of vehicles to turn around and exit the area. Vehicles should still be able to turn left onto Southeast 20th Place before reaching the end of Southeast 2nd Ave as they currently do. Standard 5, all 3 utility providers have provided letters of no objection. In regards to our comprehensive plan, we find this is consistent with policy 1.15 that identifies R1 district as being consistent with single-family future land use classification. We also find it's consistent with policy 1.15A. The site will be developed with a density less than the maximum 4.4 dwelling units per acre. And our recommendation, the Planning Division recommends approval of the requested vacation with the conditions outlined in the staff report. Would you like me to read those into the record for you? Okay. Condition 1, the vacation of 2,000 square feet of right-of-way shall be consistent with the sketch and accompanying legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC dated September 13, 2021, entitled Exhibit A. Condition 2, the vacation of 354 square feet of platted easements in lots 1 and 2, block 1339, shall be consistent with the sketch and accompanying legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC dated September 13, 2021, entitled Exhibit B. Condition 3, the vacation of 354 square feet of platted easements in lots 30 through 32, block 1338, shall be consistent with the sketch and accompanying legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC dated March 4, 2022, entitled Exhibit D. Condition 4, the city shall retain easements sufficient for maintaining a 6-foot wide perimeter easement around the expanded site at 1933 Southeast 2nd Street as depicted in the accompanying sketch and legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC entitled Exhibit C. Condition 5, the city shall retain easements sufficient for maintaining a 6-foot wide perimeter easement around each expanded site at 204 Southwest 20th Place as depicted in the accompanying sketch and legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC entitled Exhibit E. Condition 6, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for a new house at 1933 Southeast 2nd Street, the owner of the site shall remove the pavement associated with the vacated street right-of-way. This area shall be sodded following the removal of this pavement. The costs associated, the cost of all improvements identified in this condition shall be borne by the owner of 1933 Southeast 2nd Street. Condition 7, if utilities are found and or damaged within the vacated areas described, the applicant will bear the cost of relocation and repair of said facilities at the sole discretion of the affected utility provider. And lastly, condition 8, the city shall record this resolution with the Office of Lee County Clerk of Court following the receipt of the recording fees from the applicant. That is all I have for you, and I stand by for any questions.
Thank you. I have no questions. This is a public hearing. Are there members of the public who wish to provide testimony or input regarding this proposed vacation? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, public testimony, bring it back to the applicant. Sir, may I have you back up at the podium, Mr. Penny? Mr. Penny, could you come up, please? Thank you. I apologize for the audio. We appear to be having audio difficulties today, so I apologize for that. You've heard what Mr. Heller has said today. Do you wish to have that incorporated into your presentation today, sir?
I do.
Thank you very much. I have no other questions. Thank you. You can sit down if you like. And Mr. Heller, anything else?
I have nothing further, but I do have hard copies of the exhibits for you.
That's fine. You can bring them up. Thank you. I will recommend that the vacation go forward as requested by the applicant and as addressed by staff. And at this point, I'm closing the hearing. I will attempt to get the recommendation out as quickly as possible. Mr. Penny, I understand you've been waiting a couple of years, and I will attempt to get my part of this moving forward as quickly as possible. Thank you for coming in today, and thank you for your patience. All right, Madam Clerk, would you call the second case, please?
Case number VAC 23-000007, address 118 Southwest 58th Street. Applicant Curtis R. Kruger. The owner requests a vacation of 414 square feet of canal right-of-way and all underlying easements and 480 square feet of platted easements to extend the site to the edge of the seawall in lots 12 and 13, block 0196, Unit 3, Cape Coral Subdivision. The address is 118 Southwest 58th Street. Any persons giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Ms. Ford.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Candace Ford with the City Planning Division. I am here to confirm that this has been properly advertised. There was an ad placed in the newspaper before the hearing. We did post signs on site and within the neighborhood to alert the residents, and mailers were sent to all residents within 500 feet of the site.
Thank you. I will find the proper notice was given. May we have the applicant up, please, sir? Thank you.
Good morning. This is a pretty simple application. I believe it's a,
Okay, would you identify yourself, sir, for the record?
my name is Curtis R. Kruger. I'm the owner of the property at 118 Southwest 58th Street.
Thank you.
This is a standard lot that we purchased back in September. It's an 80 by 125-foot lot. There's about a 414 square foot section of undeveloped canal right-of-way on the rear of the property. We have plans to try to improve the property with new construction and development of outdoor activities out in the backside of the property, and we'd like to condense the lot and maintain control of the lot all the way to the canal and marine improvements. So that's why we're going for this this vacation. I've got all the details. You've got all the details. I would totally agree with the staff report. I believe that we've all seen all the documents, and I'm not going to waste your time with preparing or showing any more. I would like to accept their staff report as part of my presentation.
Thank you. Actually, the technical term is incorporate. I know that's one of those lawyer things, but if you could say incorporate in addition to accept, that would be great.
I would like to incorporate the staff report into my my presentation.
Thank you. And I want to commend you on the thoroughness of your preparation. I was very impressed with that, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Ford, thank you.
Okay, again, for the record, Candace Ford, City Planning Division. As previously noted, the applicant is going to be Curtis and Peggy Kruger. The location is going to be 118 Southwest 58th Street. The owners are requesting to vacate 414 square feet of canal right-of-way adjacent to lots 12 and 13 in Block 0196, Unit 3, Cape Coral Subdivision. And the second request is to vacate 480 square feet of platted easements occupying lots 12 and 13 in Block 0196. The subject parcel is going to be outlined there in red, and then the buffer around it is going to be all the residents that received mailing for the 500-foot. The zoning of the parcel is currently R1 with a future land use classification that also supports single family, and as you can see on the screen, it's comparable for all the residents within 500 feet and beyond as well. A little bit of background about the site. The site is currently 10,526 square feet, and they are, of course, in a predominantly residential area of the city, as previously noted on the screen. The site does abut the Barbizon Canal, which has a platted width of roughly 90 feet. The site currently has a single-family house and a dock with a boat lift. The house was built in 1966, and the boat lift and dock permit was obtained in 2022. In regards to the criteria in LDC for section 3.4.5 for the vacation, standard one is going to be whether the plat, easement, or right-of-ways are required by the city for any future transportation, access, water management, or public utility purposes. Staff analysis finds that the canal right-of-way consists of a narrow, unexcavated strip of land which lies between the property line and the canal, so essentially it's not going to provide any sort of mobility or transportation benefit. Based on that, the right-of-way, we don't really have any utility functions for it either, so we're okay with giving that up. The platted easements are going to be requested to be around the site. We do require the 6-foot perimeter easement as standard, so we are okay with also the 480 feet platted easements being vacated. Criteria 2 in section 3.4.5 is whether any required easements are necessary to accommodate the vacation of any plat, easement, or right-of-way. Staff analysis finds that sufficient easements underlying the canal right-of-way will be obtained by the city for the 6-foot wide perimeter easement, so no additional easements will be necessary at this time. Criteria 3 mentions if ulterior routes are required or available that do not cause adverse impacts to the surrounding area. The canal right-of-way that's proposing to be vacated is not part of the actual canal system. It's not part of the functioning waterway system. Therefore, it's not expected to cause any navigability or visibility concerns at this time. So we're okay with that as well. Standard 4 is if the closure of the right-of-way negatively affects areas utilized for vehicles to turn around and exit the area. Since the canal right-of-way is between the property line and the seawall, it's not expected to affect vehicles, and since it is in the upland portion, it's not expected to cause any concerns for boats traveling in the Barbizon Canal as well. Standard 5 is going to be whether any local utility providers have given consent to the vacation of the plat, easement, or right-of-way. All 3 utility providers have issued letters of no objection regarding the requested vacation. LCEC does require a continuous easement be provided around the perimeter of the site, but our 6-foot wide easement requirement will cover that as well. Consistency with our comprehensive plan, we don't have anything specifically for vacations. However, in our future land use element table 1, policy 1.15, we do find that the R1 district is consistent with the single-family future land use classification. And then again, for policy 1.15, it does state that sites of 10,000 square feet and greater should not have densities greater than 4.4 units per acre. We find that the request is consistent with this policy. The expanded site will bring that up to about 10,941 square feet total, which will equivalent to about 3.98 acre or dwelling units per acre, which is going to be less than the standard 4.4 dwelling units per acre. Planning staff recommends approval with conditions of the vacation. Prior to the hearing examiner this morning, we did not receive any correspondence, no inquiries either regarding this case. And I will read my conditions of approval into the record. The first condition we have is that the vacation of the 414 square foot of canal right-of-way and underlying easements shall be consistent with that shown in the sketch and legal description prepared by Adura, which is going to be titled Exhibit A. The second condition is that the vacation of 480 square feet of platted easement shall be consistent with the sketch and legal description by Adura, which is going to be entitled Exhibit B. And the city shall retain sufficient 6-foot wide perimeter easements as noted in the sketch and description prepared by Adura, which will be labeled Exhibit C. The fourth condition is going to be that the petitioner shall pay to the city of Cape Coral the cost of recording this resolution with the office of the Lee County Clerk of Court. And the fifth condition would be that the city shall record this resolution with the office of Lee County Clerk of Court following the receipt of the recording fees from the petitioner. And I do have hard copies for you of all of the exhibits. And that concludes my presentation. I will stand by for questions.
Super, thank you. Do you wish to incorporate your staff report into your presentation
Yes,
today?
I do.
Thank you very much. Nice presentation. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Are there members of the public who wish to provide input or public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Mr. Kruger, could I have you back up again, please, sir? Thank you. You've heard the testimony of staff this morning. Do you have any additional testimony you wish to provide at this time?
I do not.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Ms. Ford, back up, please. Thank you. Anything further?
No, ma'am, not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I will recommend the vacation go forward as requested. I will attempt to get the recommendation out as quickly as possible to the City Council. And at this time, I will close hearing number B. We are now proceeding to hearing number E, as in Edward or Elephant. And Madam Clerk, would you call that case, please? Thank you.
Case number VAC 23-000015, address 1420 Santa Barbara Boulevard. Applicant Hamaprasad Kasareddy. Manager, Paraz Builders LLC. The owner, Paraz Builders LLC, is requesting a vacation of approximately 1,092 square feet of easements underlying a previously vacated alley right-of-way. This alley was vacated by Resolution 53-93. The subject easements are along the south and west property lines of a two-lot site located at 1420 Santa Barbara Boulevard. Eliminating this easement will provide the owner with greater flexibility in developing the site. The owner previously submitted a site development plan, SDP 23-000025, for this site for a 2,700 square foot retail building. The vacation of the platted easement will result in a 10-foot wide easement remaining along the south and west property lines. The site will retain a continuous perimeter easement with a width ranging from 6 to 10 feet. The elimination of the easement requested is not needed to support a future public utility or drainage purpose, as a continuous perimeter easement will remain around the site. This application meets city standards established for vacation requests and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Any persons giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Mr. Struve.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Mike Struve, Planning Team Coordinator with the Planning Division. This case was noticed, and that included placing an ad in the news press 10 days in advance of this hearing date, placing a sign on the subject property, as well as direct mailing all surrounding property owners within 500 feet of the site.
Thank you. I will find the proper notice was given.
Thank you.
All right, may we have the applicant up, or applicant's representative up, please? Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Veronica Martin, Senior Planner with TDM Consulting, and I'm representing the applicant today, Hema Prasad Kasturati with Paraz Builders LLC. The
You
request
didn't wince when I said his name, so I think I got pretty close. and
you did it, said it exactly.
I apologize to the applicant. I tried. Thank you. Go ahead.
It was perfect. The request before you today is to vacate the 6-foot wide platted easements along the west and south property lines of lots 55 and 56, block 1999, unit 28, in City of Cape Coral subdivision. The property is located at 1420 Santa Barbara Boulevard, and staff has recommended approval with conditions, and the applicant has reviewed those conditions and has agreed to comply. I would like to incorporate the staff report into my presentation today.
Thank you.
This subject property is outlined in red on the aerial location map. It's located on the west side of Santa Barbara Boulevard, south of Southwest 13th Terrace, and north of Southwest 15th Terrace. There is an ALF east of the property and an LCEC power grid to the southeast. If you're familiar with this location, Trafalgar Parkway runs east-west just south of this property. The property is zoned commercial as shown in red on the zoning map to the left. The surrounding properties to the north, south, east, and west are also zoned commercial. The lots further west are zoned residential in yellow, and the parcel in peach is zoned institutional, and that again is the LCEC power grid. The property also has a future land use classification of commercial professional as shown in red in the future land use map to the right. The surrounding properties are also within the commercial professional future land use classification, while those lots further west have a future land use classification of single-family residential as shown in yellow. A little background of this property. The applicant has submitted a site development permit for a 2,700 square foot retail building via SDP 23-000025. The platted properties, lots 55 and 56, were originally located at the intersection of two 20-foot wide alleys, but both of those alleys were vacated per resolution 53-93. The underlying easements were left in place after the alleys were vacated, which is where the existing utility infrastructure is located. The 6-foot wide perimeter easements remain, creating a 16-foot wide easement along both the south and west property lines. The applicant has provided proof of ownership of the property for which the vacation is requested. Letters of no objection from all utility providers have been provided, and a certified sketch and legal description for the easements to be vacated have been provided by Harris Jorgensen, Inc. The applicant has met the criteria for the vacation request. Criteria number 1, whether the plat, easements, or rights-of-way are required by the city for any future transportation, access, water management, or public utility purposes. In addition to the existing 10-foot wide easements along the west and south property lines when the alleys were vacated in 1993, a 6-foot wide platted easement is located around the perimeter of the site. The 6-foot wide easements to be vacated along the west and south property lines do lack utility infrastructure, and all utility providers have provided letters of no objection to this vacation request. The 10-foot wide easements will remain to the west and south, and the 6-foot wide easements will remain to the east and north, creating a perimeter utility easement around the property. Whether any required easements are necessary to accommodate the vacation of any plat, easement, or right-of-way. Again, a continuous perimeter easement of 6 to 10 feet in width will be retained for future utility installation and maintenance, and no new easements are required. Number 3, if alternate routes are required or available that do not cause adverse impacts to surrounding areas. No rights-of-way are being vacated, so alternate routes are not needed. The existing street network will not be affected by this vacation request. If the closure of a right-of-way negatively affects areas utilized for vehicles to turn around and exit in the area, again, this vacation request does not include the closure of a right-of-way. And lastly, criteria number 5, whether the local utility providers have given consent to the vacation of the plat, easements, or right-of-way, and all local utility providers have provided letters of no objection to vacating the 6-foot wide easements along the west and south property lines. LCEC and Comcast have included conditions in their letters of approval due to the fact that they do have existing infrastructure in the 10-foot wide easements that run parallel to the easements the applicant is vacating. The applicant does agree to those conditions of approval. The comprehensive plan analysis, policy 1.15, table 1, does show that the commercial zoning of the property is consistent with the commercial professional future land use category. There were 5 conditions of approval that staff placed on this vacation request. Again, the applicant does accept and will comply with all 5 of those conditions. The vacation of easement shall be consistent with a sketch and description prepared by Harris Jorgensen dated July 15th, 2023. In the event Comcast facilities are damaged during construction, the owner shall bear the cost of repairing said facilities. Number 3, the city shall retain easement sufficient for maintaining a minimum 6-foot wide public utility and drainage easement around the perimeter of the site. The owner shall reimburse the city for the cost of recording the resolution with the Lee County Clerk of Court. And number 5, the city shall record the resolution with the Lee County Clerk of Court following receipt of the recording fee. That does conclude my presentation, if you have any questions.
I have no questions. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Mr. Strube, when you have a moment, thank you.
Good morning again, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Mike Strube, Planning Team Coordinator with the City Planning Division. And for the purposes of this hearing this morning, I would like to request to be recognized as an expert in the area of land use planning based on my credentials, which are on file with the City Clerk's Office, and based on my past testimony before you on similar matters.
I will also recognize, recognize you as an expert based upon your credentials, which are on file with the clerk, and also based upon your prior testimony regarding matters that are similar to the matters that are before us today. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a privately initiated vacation request brought forward by the owner, Prezaz Builders LLC. You've already heard from Ms. Martin with TDM Consulting. The owner's requesting to vacate just under 1,100 square feet of platted easements in lots 55 and 56 in block 1999. The subject property is located at 1420 Santa Barbara Boulevard. This is an aerial very similar to the aerial that Ms. Martin showed. The site has frontage along Santa Barbara Boulevard. It is directly to the west of Gulf Coast Village, which is the assisted living facility that Ms. Martin referred to. The subject property and all properties within Block 1999 have a commercial, professional, future land use classification, and commercial or C zoning. The petitioner owns one site that is just over 12,000 square feet. The site was originally occupied a corner of an intersection of a platted alley. And when that alleyway was vacated, the owner of this site gained 10 additional feet to the west and to the south. And that vacation occurred in 1993. And when that occurred, that not only because the city retained all underlying easements, that only imposed an additional easement, if you will, in terms of width along those two property lines, but it also had the effect of that platted easement now being located more interior to the site than previously. We typically like to report on concurrent applications that involve the subject property in cases like this, and staff is reviewing a site development plan for this site that depicts a 2,700 square foot retail building on this site. And this is this is clipped from our original plat maps down in development services. It's very similar again to what Ms. Martin showed. The subject property is outlined in blue. The alleyway is shown here, and it is shown in a red crosshatch because that's the way that we used to designate that or fill that in with a red pencil back in the early days before we did things as much electronically as we do now. In terms of minimum standards, the petitioner has complied with our minimum standards for considering such a request, which includes demonstrating that they own the subject property. They provided correspondence from the utility providers, and we've also received and reviewed a sketch and accompanied legal description for the easement that's been requested to be vacated. I'm going to go over each standard as well as our staff analysis and our recommended findings here. The first standard is whether the plat, easements, or rights-of-way are required by the city for any future transportation, access, water management, or public utility purposes. And we find that the 6-foot wide platted easement surrounds the entirety of the site. However, there are additional easements again along the west and south property lines. So right now, currently, there is the site is bound by easements that range anywhere from 6 feet wide to 10 feet wide. The easements that the applicant is requesting to be vacated are platted easements along the south and west property lines, where this additional easement that was became part of the applicant's site through the vacation that occurred in 1993 was realized. These platted easements requested to be vacated by the owner are not needed because of that additional 10-foot wide easement that will exist on the south and west side. So staff does not see that there is a foreseeable future need for maintaining or retaining these easements requested by the applicant to be vacated. Standard 2, whether any required easements are necessary to accommodate the vacation of any plat, easement, or rights-of-way. Following the vacation, the site will retain a continuous perimeter easement of 6 to 10 feet in width, so we conclude that no new easements are needed in this case. Standard 3, are there alternative routes required or available that do not cause adverse impacts to surrounding areas? In this case, since right-of-way is not requested to be vacated, alternative routes are not needed. The existing street network, and in this case, Santa Barbara Boulevard, provides frontage and will provide access to the site at some point. Standard 4, does the closure of a right-of-way negatively affect areas utilized for vehicles to turn around or exit an area? And this really pertains more to a right-of-way or to a vacation as opposed to easements. This application does not involve the vacation or closure of an alley or street right-of-way. So this standard also has been met by the applicant. And then 5, whether the local utility providers have given consent to the vacation of the plat, easements, or rights-of-way. And in this case, all 3 utility providers have issued letters of no objection, although 2 have done so conditionally. LCEC requires a minimum 6-foot wide perimeter easement to be maintained around the site, which will be done. Comcast states that the company has facilities in the development area, and in the event that these facilities are damaged when the site is developed, the owner will be required to repair these facilities at the owner's expense. Both items are addressed in conditions of approval recommended by staff that appear at the end of our staff report and that appear at the end of this presentation. In terms of consistency with the city comprehensive plan, this application is consistent with Table 1 and Policy 1.15 of the future land use element. This table shows that the commercial zoning of the site is consistent with the commercial professional future land use classification of the property. In terms of staff recommendations, staff is recommending approval with conditions. We have received 2 phone calls concerning this application, both from individuals requesting more information about this particular request. I would like to request that my staff report be incorporated into this presentation, and I'll go ahead and read the conditions of approval into the record.
I will so incorporate, thank you.
The first condition of approval, the vacation of platted easements in lots 55 and 56, Block 1999, Unit 28, Cape Coral subdivision shall be consistent with that shown in the sketch and accompanying legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen, LLC, entitled Vacated 6-foot wide public utility and drainage easement lying in lots 55 and 56, Block 1999, Cape Coral, Unit 28, dated July 15th, 2023, that appears in Exhibit A. Condition number 2, in the event Comcast facilities are damaged during construction activities, the owner shall bear the cost of repairing said facilities at the owner's expense. Number 3, the city shall retain easements sufficient for maintaining a minimum 6-foot wide public utility and drainage easement coincident with the perimeter of the site. Condition 4, the owner shall reimburse the City of Cape Coral the cost of recording this resolution with the Office of the Lee County Clerk of Court. And then fifth and lastly, the city shall record this resolution with the Office of the Lee County Clerk of Court following the receipt of the recording fees from the owner. That concludes my presentation. I stand by in case you have questions for me later.
I have no questions, thank you. This is a public hearing, or the members of the public who wish to provide input or testimony. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to the applicant's representative. Thank you. Ms. Martin, thank you. Do you wish to incorporate Mr. Struve's testimony into your testimony today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Any other testimony today?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Struve, thank you.
Nothing further from me, Madam Hearing Examiner.
Okay, thank you very much. I will recommend that the vacation go forward as requested by the applicant. I will attempt to get the recommendation out as quickly as possible. And at this time, I will close that hearing, and move on to hearing number F as in Frank. And Madam Hearing Examiner, would you, no, I'm the hearing examiner, you're the clerk. Madam Clerk, would you please call the next case? Thank you.
Yes, case number RZN 23-000003, address 1322 Northeast 12th Avenue. Applicant, Duplexes Resort Park LLC. This is a privately initiated rezoning application for property located at 1322 Northeast 12th Avenue. That is approximately 24.67 acres from the residential multifamily low RML district to the residential multifamily medium RMM district. The site is located approximately 2,670 feet southwest of the intersection of Del Prado Boulevard North and Diplomat Parkway East. Any persons giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Mr. White.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Patrick Carlton White, Senior Planner downstairs in DSD. At this point, I'd like to relay that this case has been properly notified. We've sent mailings to properties within 500 feet of the property. We've advertised it in the newspaper, the news press, and we have posted signs on the property.
Thank you. I will find the proper notice was given.
Thank you. That's all I have at this point. I'll wait to make a presentation later.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good morning, Mr. Mazurkowitz.
Morning, Madam Hearing Examiner Joe Mazurkowitz, President BJ Consulting here on behalf of Duplexes Resort Park LLC. Prior to starting my testimony, I'd like to be recognized as an expert witness based on my prior CV submitted to the hearing examiner and prior presentations in front of this august body.
I appreciate the august, nevertheless, I will find you as an expert based upon your CV, which has been provided previously, and also based upon your testimony regarding matters that are similar to the matters which are before us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. We're here today to present a rezoning on behalf of Duplexes Resort Park LLC. They're the owners of the parcel of land located in Northeast Cape Coral. The address of the property is 1322 Northeast 12th Avenue. This is our letter of intent was to change the zoning from the existing multifamily RML, 16 units an acre, to multifamily RMM, 25 units an acre. The site is made up of all the property in Block 2072. Its future land use is multifamily, has been so since 1989. The existing zoning is multifamily RML, 16 units an acre, has been so since 2019. The site consists of a single parcel of 24 plus or minus acres. The site is located in a transition area and is part of Contract 6 in North 1. And since I submitted my original letter of intent back in February 23, the construction timetable has been delayed. It is now scheduled to be completed in 2025 for utilities in that area. Madam Hearing Examiner, the title of the property owners pretty much says why this application is here. These folks came to me, have built numerous duplexes all over the city of Cape Coral, and want to build a whole block of duplexes.
The last thing I told them we need in Cape Coral is more duplexes. And so I also told them, and that's specifically why I convinced them to go to the RMM rather than the RML. They could perfectly happy with the RML and build duplexes on this site. I convinced them the RMM, which prohibits duplexes and single-family homes, the two things we don't need any more of in the city of Cape Coral, and promotes the development of, with enough density to provide good amenities and a density to provide good property managements, which will disallow the problems that we have with the lack of ongoing management processes with duplexes in the city. So that's the only reason why we're going from the RML to the RMM. We just don't need any more duplexes. The site is just south of Diplomat Parkway and east of Andalusia Boulevard. The site is surrounded on all four sides by single-family homes, as in almost every other RMM zoning I have brought to this city. In the city of Cape Coral, 120 square miles, the predominant surrounding use is single-family homes. It is the same as I have brought on numerous occasions before, and that'll become important later on, Madam Hearing Examiner. As such, the application will allow for a project that will be built that is compatible with the surrounding community. We believe we meet all 6 criteria. For the zoning request, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comp plan and the underlying land use of multifamily. The site does meet the 1 acre minimum requirement necessary to support the RMM zoning. The site is the middle of an area surrounded by the Delaware Canal and a Balmoral Canal, and is surrounded by existing family homes and undeveloped lots. The existing zoning of RML allows for duplexes and single-family homes, both of which we have an excess of available parcels in the city. The requested RMM zoning only allows for larger multifamily projects that are better able to be maintained properly by professional property manager companies, therefore having a better impact on the surrounding community. The full range of multifamily uses allowed in the RMM zoning are consistent and compatible with the surrounding existing developments. The RMM zoning will help meet the identified need for market-price residential units in Cape Coral. The development allowed by the RMM zoning will be compatible with the existing surrounding developments. The RMM zoning is one of the 2 zoning categories allowed in the multifamily land use, and a single parcel being developed as one project will allow for less driveways along the adjoining residential streets, provide for development with fewer potential adverse impacts on the surrounding uses. To be perfectly straightforward with you, in the RMM projects I have brought prior to this city with the 25 units an acre, we normally end up with 18 to 20 units an acre in the real world because of parking requirements, because of stormwater requirements, because of open area requirements, and because of you have to compete with the right amount of amenities now in this market because we're building much better projects than we used to build in this area. So I would suspect the problem with the market driven the way it is in the land configurations in Cape Coral and necessities to do the on-site improvements I referred to, we're probably looking at 432 to 480 units, which is 50 to 100 units more than it would have been with RML, which is what it's zoned for now, with the guarantee it's not going to be duplexes, it's not going to be single homes with driveways every 80 foot. I read and reviewed the staff report, and I would like to incorporate it into my presentation this morning, with the exception of number 5 on page 4, where it says the rezoning is not suitable for RMM zoning for the following reasons, and I'd like to go over those one at a time. Streets serving the subject property access multiple single-family residents or properties with single-family zoning designations. Multiple turning movements are required to access major roads and properties located in the existing residential neighborhood. It's exactly the same as many other RMM projects I bought. It's the first time I've heard about this condition from staff. Centralized utilities are not yet available, but will be in 2025. Actually, the market won't be available to support this many new units until 2025. The subject property is not located along major arterials. All estimated additional trips would access the property via local streets. Multiple cases I brought before with RMM had the same situation. This issue was not raised before. Totally surrounded by residential streets, not adjacent to a 4-lane or 6-lane arterial or collector. And this issue was not raised before. They talk about the estimated trips. I can't find any fault in that, other than the fact that the 25 units an acre is probably not realistic. We're probably looking to 18 to 20. When they looked at the trip generations, though, if you saw the communication between the city traffic manager and the planner, the engineer says, "I wish I could help more. I'm looking into code procedures to aid the entitlement stage applications to examine these kind of scenarios because it creates a box of uncertainty to the actual impact until the site development plan is staged. Thanks again. Please let me know if I can be of further assistance." What she's saying at this time, they have nothing to measure. This is going to be dealt with at site development, which is where it should be dealt with, is at site development, not now. Once again, new comments to the exact same kind of configuration of zoning adjacent to single-family homes, RMM zoning applications adjacent to single-family homes, as has been presented numerous times by me to the city without these kind of comments. The subject property is located centrally in a low-density residential neighborhood, as in every other multifamily project brought in the city of Cape Coral. I just don't understand these comments. The proposed RMM zoning district will allow building with a maximum height of 60 foot. Building with this height will be out of character with one-story single-family homes, as it is in every other multifamily project we brought to the city of Cape Coral with RMM zoning. Every RMM zoning is surrounded, with the exception of Pylon Road Corridor, is surrounded by single-family homes. The one on Chiquita, the Cape at Savona, identical. Matter of fact, the fact that this is internal block, totally surrounded by roads, it separates this project from the adjoining residential property by an additional 50-foot right-of-way. So I would vehemently disagree with number 6. And it says the RML district will create fewer impacts than a proposed RMM district. How do you know? Based on the uses, I would disagree most vehemently. RML allows duplexes and single-family homes, the driveway every 80 foot. Tell me that's a less impact than a single or double entrance to disperse trips from a single area. I know we've had staff let me know about some letters that they received regarding this case. All 5 letters are almost identical, with the exception of changing the address. They say the one person who said it, the Bertrams, said that they moved into their house less than 2 months ago. They bought the home in this quiet neighborhood with the understanding that new houses will be built, not multiplexes. Multiplexes were allowed across the street from them since 1989. Zoning has been in place since 2019. They had notice when they bought their house and moved in their property. It was not single family across the street. This is not moving multifamily into single family. This is putting the right kind of multifamily adjacent to their property, enhancing their values, enhancing their impacts on their property, and will provide a much higher quality product than they would if they were building duplexes across the street. Madam Hearing Examiner, that's our presentation. We respectfully request you make a recommendation to approve the rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Mazurkowitz. You had indicated you did not agree with condition number 5, and you've made comments about I shouldn't say condition, about standard number 5. Are you also not agreeing with standard number 6?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just, for housekeeping matters, I wanted to make sure what your position was. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Mr. White, you're up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. Again, for the record, Patrick Carlton White, Senior Planner downstairs in DSD. At this point, I would also like to request to be recognized as an expert witness based on my prior testimony and my credentials downstairs in the City Clerk's office.
Thank you. I will recognize you as an expert based upon your credentials, which are on file with the City Clerk's office, and also based upon your prior testimony regarding matters that are similar, although not identical, to the ones before us today. And just as a housekeeping matter, do you wish to incorporate your staff report into your presentation today?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I have a PowerPoint presentation I would like to show you at this time. It is for case RZN 23-3. The I'm sorry, I don't know what happens, what the difference between my PowerPoint is and the one that's on this computer. That's why we have a few things that are in odd places. We'll get to the bottom of it.
That's okay, thank you.
Thank you. The applicant, as Mr. Bezerkowitz noted, is Duplexes Resort Park LLC. That is the name of the company that owns the piece of land. The address is 1322 Northeast 12th Avenue. The location is all of Block 2072. It's approximately 24 and a half acres in size. It's within the transition area. And the applicants are requesting to rezone from the present zoning designation of RML, which is a multifamily low residential zoning designation, to residential multifamily medium. So it's an upzoning that would allow more units, hypothetically, potentially more units. The site is, like I said, it's on one block. It's in Northeast Cape Coral. It's vacant. It's within the North 1 West Contract 6 Utility Expansion Project. It's expected to have water and sewer in 2025. It was rezoned in a citywide rezoning in 2019 from R3, which was what we used to call our multifamily zoning designation, to RML, its present zoning designation. And it has a multifamily future land use designation it's had since the city began making that map. I've depicted the property here in a red boundary and properties within 500 feet and the candy cane, red and white kind of boundary. The zoning map shows the subject property, the future land use map shows the property with a multifamily residential future land use designation and single-family residential properties in the immediate vicinity. The zoning map paints a similar picture, showing the subject property as multifamily low RML and a surrounding area mostly comprised of R1 single-family residential properties. And if proposed, this becomes a slightly darker color, and it gets rezoned to RML, or RMM, as depicted on this map. So staff reviews these. There's 6 standards that we look at when we're reviewing a rezoning. The first questions whether the proposed zoning district is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, and staff found that it generally was. Item 2 questions whether the full range of uses allowed in the proposed zoning district will be compatible with existing uses. Staff found that the area is, at the moment, moderately developed with single-family dwellings. There are different types of residential uses that exhibit similar land use characteristics, that the size of the subject property well exceeds the minimum required to seek an RMM zoning designation, and found that in general, this criteria was met. Criteria 3 questions whether the range of uses allowed in the proposed zoning district will be compatible with existing uses in the area under consideration, and staff found that the R1, RML, and RMM allow many of the same non-residential uses, such as educational facilities, parks, religious institutions. Staff also found that there are potential uses allowed in the RML and RMM districts that are generally similar to one another, except for single-family dwellings and duplexes that are not allowed in the RMM but are allowed in the RML district. The RMM district also allows for the by right development of assisted living facility without a special exception. That is another distinction between the RML and the RMM districts. Staff found that with respect to item 3, this was generally consistent. Item 4 questions whether the proposed zoning will serve a community need or broader public purpose. Staff found that the proposed RMM district could serve a community need by ensuring a type of housing other than the single-family homes, as neither single-family homes nor duplexes are permitted in that RMM district, and found this generally consistent. Item 5 questions whether the characteristics of the proposed rezoning area are suitable for the uses permitted in the proposed zoning district, and staff found that the RMM is consistent with the multifamily future land use classification. The area of the site, like I said earlier, substantially exceeds the 1 acre minimum. The site exhibits full block depth to accommodate parking, landscaping, stormwater management, and varying access options, increasing the likelihood that a higher quality design development could be proposed on this property. And staff found that, with respect to item 5, that the rezone area is generally suitable for an RMM zoning. Staff, however, has to look at the pros and cons. And on the con side, we found that the rezone area not exactly suitable for the RMM because, as Mr. Mazurka, some of these things Mr. Mazurka was previously mentioned, I'll read them all. Number one, firstly, the streets serving the subject property provide access to multiple single-family residences or properties which will have single-family residences. The property doesn't have utilities yet. The property is not located along a major roadway, so any new trips we add will access this property zigzagging through an existing neighborhood. The subject property, the RMM district allows 10 more feet. That's essentially one more story, but the RMM already allows 50 feet. So this would further increase that to 60 and increase the potential dwelling units per acre from 16 to 25, about another increase of about half. And when weighing those two, staff found that, on balance, the rezoning was inconsistent with criteria 5. On criteria 6, the item that's under question is whether a zoning district other than that requested will create fewer adverse impacts, and that's an easy one. Yes, the one that it already has. The existing RML district will create fewer impacts than the proposed RMM district. It'll have fewer units, it'll have fewer trips, and it'll have a lower building height. So staff found it inconsistent with item number 6. The comprehensive plan has a few more things I'd like to get into the record. Chapter 4, Policy 15, I'm not going to read that, but I will summarize that both the RML and the RMM district identified in Table 1 are consistent with the multifamily future land use designation. It's compatible with both. The multifamily residential allows densities up to 25 units per acre that are permitted by the future land use designation, and the proposed rezoning to RMM would not exceed that. So generally, this request, it would be consistent with Chapter 4, Policy 1.15. Staff also looked within the comprehensive plan in our housing element and found consistency with a housing element goal to provide good quality housing in safe, clean neighborhoods, offering a broad choice of options. This project ultimately would likely yield a multifamily development project, which is something besides single-family homes. Also, Policy 2.1 is a state statute, basically that was referenced in the housing element, that the city will continue to incorporate provisions in code to assist in lowering the cost of residential development. Staff found that if this maximum density was increased to a maximum of 25 from 16, this increase in density incentivizes new multifamily development and theoretically lowers the land costs on a per unit basis. And staff, staff found that that housing policy, that this project was compatible with that policy. Staff did contact Cape Coral Fire and Police for their impacts, for their input. Fire department noted that the property would be served by Station 5, that the future development could impact a number of calls for service annually. I think that that's because they were looking at the potential for an ALF to go there. It's because that would generate a number of calls. And that a moderate impact on department operations could be expected if improved. The police had a lengthier response. They noted that the property is served by Police Zone 1 North, but that less than a 1% increase of recorded calls would be expected and less than 1% citywide. They did note that they expected the development could have a minor impact to service demands, and additionally noted the area around the subject property has 2 points of ingress-egress at the intersection of Northeast 13th Avenue and Northeast 15th Terrace and Northeast 13th Avenue and Northeast 12th Street. The location could influence north-south traffic flows on Northeast 13th Avenue and at the intersection of Northeast 13th Avenue and Diplomat Parkway East, and the intersection at the Northeast 13th Avenue and Pine Island Road. Traffic from the development of the subject block may be compounded with traffic from Diplomat Elementary and middle schools during the school year, during start and closing times, and that they noted that city services rely on movement along Pine Island Road and Diplomat Parkway corridors. In summary, staff found that while the application has some positive attributes, on balance, the requested zoning based on the location of the property would be incompatible with the surrounding area, and staff is recommending denial of this case. I received one phone call in opposition. I received one email. I believe he's present here, and we received 5 written statements of all in objection of the proposed request. I will stand by for your questions.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prior to opening, well, I am opening public comment, but I do want to note for the record, as referenced by Mr. White and also referenced by Mr. Mazurkowitz, I have received prior to today 5 emails that were provided to staff and through staff to me. In opposition, I'd like to read their names into the record. The first one is from Leah and Troy Bertram. That was the one that was referenced by Mr. Mazurkowitz. The second one, I'm having a little problem reading the handwriting, but I believe it is Valsis Hoover. The third one is from William Bonfim, if I'm pronouncing that. The next one is from Arthur Hemond, Hemond. The fifth one has just has a scrawled signature. I'm not really sure who that person is, but their address as listed on the email is 1225 Northeast 12th Avenue. So those are, and they're, as indicated by Mr. White, they're all in opposition, and they pretty much say the same thing. So having said that, I'm now opening public comment. I don't have any specific cards for speakers, but I did notice there were a number of people raised their hand. So if you'll raise your hand again, I'll call the lady in the front wearing the white sleeveless shirt. And I don't want to keep asking people, have you been sworn in? So I will merely have you volunteer. If you've not been sworn in before you come up to speak, please say that you'd like to be sworn in. Thank you.
Yes, I was sworn in.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Um,
Give your name for the record, please, ma'am.
My name is Jean Phillips, and I live on Northeast 13th Street, adjacent to what we call the field, which has been there for many years. Sorry about that. When we bought back in 1996. So you can imagine, thank you, sir. There were almost no houses. There was my house and one other house on the block. Many of the roads had trees growing through them. We knew eventually it was going to get surrounded, and it took years, but we were surrounded. We kept looking at that field thinking, that is too big for regular housing. And even we had asked the realtor when we bought the place, he says, I don't know what they have planned for that. I'm thinking maybe the city's going to put a park there, which made sense at the size of it. I watched the tax rolls on it over the years when we first moved in. One company owned it. 2 years later, another company owned it. 4 years later, the same company. It went back and forth between 2 companies for a long time. So I figured tax dodge, no problem. I don't think the government should get any more money than they really have to. But I kept waiting and waiting for this to happen. And when I got the letter about the I understand our housing problem. I really do. I have a 28-year-old son sleeping on my couch right now because he couldn't afford his rent anymore. So I really do understand our needs for housing. I don't see any high-rises going up that are affordable enough for someone his age. I have plenty of friends who live in duplexes. I don't even mind fourplexes. But when they talk about what is going to affect the area, oh, well, instead of so many driveways, you'll have 2. Okay. I don't know if the map is up on there, but if you looked at originally
Mr. White will help put the map up. Thank you, Mr. White.
You can stay there, I'll have it up.
So no matter which way you come out of, well, that's even fine just like that, okay? Whether you put them this way or that way, it doesn't matter. They all have to, you cannot get out this way at all. There are no roads going that way, heading west. You will have to get over to 12th and then work your way to Northeast 13th Avenue to get out of there. You're either going to go to Diplomat, no traffic light. Yes, there's a school crossing there, but during the day, it's pretty busy trying to just get on and off that. Or you can go straight out to Pine Island Road. Again, no traffic light, 6-lane divided highway, not so easy. Doesn't matter how many driveways you have, how many people are going to be accommodated on that lot, how many cars are going to be zigzagging in and out of there, because this is not an elder area. It's an area full of children. Part of what I did like on our street, unless you lived on one of those 4 streets, you didn't see cars. Kids play out there on the road. My kids are old enough, I shouldn't have to worry about it, but I see every day on my way home. I worry about that. I worry about what's it going to do. We're getting city water. What's it going to do to the, what do they call that, potable water? I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with that. I've heard, over the years, when we have our dry spells, even the city runs low on this. So what is that going to do when it comes to potable water? I just don't see, I sure don't want to look out my front window and see, 4 stories. I don't know what they've got planned. They haven't shown any pictures of what they've got planned. I mean, that would help me make a decision. I just don't want to see, all these cars because there's only one way out of there. There's going to be a lot more traffic on all of those roads.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure I've got plenty more to say, but that's about my time that I can, that was my most important, was the traffic and how they're making it sound like it's nothing. You look at all of those roads to the right, that's how you're getting out. You're not getting out to the east or to the west. You're getting out to the west and then figuring your way from there. When I first moved there, I used to be able to just tell people, go to the bridge, like you said, zigzag back there, and this is how everybody's going to have to get back there to build. I'd go to the bridge and then march. Make a left, make a right, make a left, make a right, make a left. It's going to be a pain in the butt.
Thank you.
You for
You
your
mentioned,
time.
I'm sorry, you mentioned you might have other things to say. This will go in front of the city council, and it will go forward for a hearing. So if you have other things you think of between now and then, you certainly will have an opportunity at that time to present whatever you want.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming in. I know that this takes a chunk out of people's days, and I appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much. All right. Anyone else? The gentleman in the back in the white shirt. Come on up, sir, please. Thank you. And when you get up here, could you please state your name for the record, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Sit down. My name is John Howell.
Thank you.
Yeah, my complaints are pretty much like hers, except for one other one that's really detrimental to the whole affair, is that our property values are going to go down. So, just to get something off my chest, is you're coming down with water. It's going to cost us about $30,000-$40,000 a piece, so we either have to refi our house to pay for it, which bumps us up from a 3.25 to a 7 whatever, and then and now you're building a multifamily duplex behind here that's gonna drop our property value. I feel like we've been screwed. That's what I feel like, okay? That's just my opinion for right now. But, yes, she's exactly right. 13th Avenue is gonna be the only thoroughfare on the place. One's going to a school zone in the early mornings where it's 20 miles an hour. The other one's going to Pine Island where there's no traffic light. No traffic light. So trying to get out of that corner right there, or you can take Andalusia and get on that traffic light. But it's all going to be bottled up right there. And that's tough. That's tough. You're going to have to leave for work an hour early just to get there. And it's just not fair. And plus, you know, all these extra price, this big price tag that we got for the water and everything else, and then you're going to reduce the property value of our house. I've been paying taxes for 10 years at that address, and I have not seen one dime come down that street from the city to make our life a little bit easier. None, not any. So I'm just kind of wondering what's going on here, you know? Where do I get a voice of opinion here, and then what happens to it? What happens to it after that? Because it's not right, and nothing that has been said here is right. Nothing except for his complaints are the things that he proposed, because it's all true, every bit of it. It's going to significantly impact the traffic, and they say it's going to be consistent for the surrounding use. He says, well, it's been done before, and it's exactly the same. And no, it's not exactly the same, because this is our neighborhood. It's not exactly the same. There's plenty of places he could build this place. So there's land all over where I live. But no, he wants to choose right there in the middle of our neighborhood, and that's not a right. So that's all I got to say about the whole thing. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Thank you for coming in today.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate your time. Thank you. Hey, folks, please no applause. I will listen to everybody, but let's not do that. Anyone else that wants to testify today? The lady in the pink. And when you come up, could you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Jennifer Sevilla, and I live right across the place that they want to build. It's not much of the difference of these two neighbors said, but also I wanted to say, I have 2 kids in the elementary, and I already have to wake them up 30, 45 minutes before than I should, just because if we want to cross Diplomat, it takes you about 20 minutes to cross it. Imagine if they build something there that's going to bring more kids, which it's fine. I know that when I bought this house, I knew something was going to be built there, and I said, well, maybe houses, hopefully a park, and that wouldn't bring so many more than traffic than what we have right now. But if they are thinking of building duplexes and a building, that's going to be worse. Like, what time do I have to wake up my kids? 6 in the morning so they can make it to school at 9? I mean, there is no traffic light. There is no other street I can get out. I have only one exit, 13. That's it. No traffic light, only 2-way stop sign. What else? I mean, I don't think that's right. And when I bought this house, I asked the person that sold me this house, what do you think it's going to be about there? Oh, we don't know. Even now, they don't know what they're going to build. So approval, and then when they figured it out, it's going to be too late. I don't think that's right. I think you got to think there's people there that have already been living there for years and years, and they're not okay with this, not even knowing. That's one of the big things. What is it? What are you going to build exactly? They don't know. They don't tell you. I mean, we have enough kids in the neighborhood. Why don't you build a big park? There's a park right now on Del Prado. My kids can go because there's so many kids. They can't play there. Build the park. We're okay with that. But a big building, duplexes, more cars, more traffic, right now, I have to call about once a month or two, or like maybe 2 months. I have to call the city. Can you come and fix the potholes? The city's not doing anything for that. Can you fix the street right in front of my house? Oh, we can't do that. All we can do is fill up the hole, and then when it rains, it's even bigger. They're not doing anything. Oh, but now they're gonna build a big building. Now they're gonna do something to bring build a big thing that is gonna be worse for us. When the construction starts, what's gonna happen to our roads? It's not even big for 2 cars. When I go one way, the other car has to go all the way to the side so I can go across. What's gonna happen when a big building is there or a lot of duplexes are there? I feel like my neighbor said, I think we're being screwed by this. Nobody's helping us now. What's gonna happen later with all of this? Also, I just wanted to show you, I have a lot of people couldn't make it because it's 9 in the morning and they have to work. And I went around and I got some signatures because they're not okay with this either. I don't know if you would like me to give it to you.
Could you give it to Mr. White, please? Thank you.
And thank you so much for hearing me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for being here, and I know everybody has busy schedules, so I appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much. All right, there's another gentleman had his hand up. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, come on up. Thank you. And could you state your name for the record when you arrive at the microphone? Thank you.
My name is Jeff Hendley. I reside at 1405 Northeast 12th Avenue, basically across the street from the development, and basically across the street where they're staging, I believe, the new roads going in now. Not to rehash everything that's been said, but I contacted the zoning director just saying, has an RML gone to an RMM in the middle of a residential neighborhood with no major thoroughfares to get to it? And they mentioned to me that maybe one, which was on Cape Coral Parkway, where they could get in and out. The applicant states that this is common to him. He says he's done it many times. Well, I'd like to see proof of where they've built a multi-family unit in the middle of a congested, and as you can see by the map here.
Mr. White, could you put the map up, please, sir? Thank you.
Should be. It's right there. I mean, just to rehash, there's one way in, one way out. It's 13th Avenue, basically. And for the people that have kids, I know, because when I'm retired, I have no little kids, and it doesn't affect me as far as schooling. But when I try to get out on Diplomat just to buzz up to Lowe's during school hours, it's impossible. And then coming home during school hours to try to make a left off a Diplomat down 13th Avenue, it's impossible. I just cannot imagine 200 and something units going in there with the added traffic. And I know the roads will be improved. That shouldn't be an issue. But just with all the little kids and the schooling, and the school being across Diplomat and then getting out on Pine Island. And believe me, I know how hard it is to get out on Pine Island. And if you don't stop when one car goes, and if you don't stop at the stop sign again, that's a ticket, because I know. But if you don't, you never get out. Let's put it that way. So I'm just trying to figure out 1989, or when they decided to plot this square, our multifamily, in the middle of single-family homes. I think that's probably the issue, is that why would they do that in their planning and their strategy to go multifamily right there? That's way before my time. I've only lived here about 13 years. But I just want to adamantly agree with the staff's denial. I just think putting let's put it this way, me sitting at my dinner table as we watch the sunset every evening, because it faces the west, I can't fathom sitting at my dining room table, looking out there watching the sunset, setting maybe a half hour early because we've got some tall apartment buildings there. I mean, I just can't fathom that. Makes no sense. I just wanted you to get on the record. And like I say, I support the staff's denial. Thank you.
I appreciate coming in today, sir. Thank you very much. Even though you're retired, I'm sure you have a lot of other obligations that occupy your time. Is there anyone else who would like to testify from public comment? Yes, sir. Come on up, please. Thank you. And when you come up, please state your name for the record. And I think you were sworn in, if I remember correctly. Were you
Yes,
sworn
I'm
in?
Alan Smith, longtime resident of that area.
1 second. Were you sworn in, sir?
I raised my hand with
There you
4 or
go.
5 other people, yeah.
You're good to go. Thank you, sir.
I live at 1323 Northeast 9th Place. I've lived there since July 1st, 1986. When my house was built, I was told, that future plan was a park. So that's a few years before the 89 zoning for multifamily. What I'm against is basically what everybody else has said I agree with. The traffic is really, really bad. If we go 5 or 6 stories, there goes my sunrise every morning. I've been there almost 40 years. So the traffic is just horrendous. No traffic lights on 13th Ave at all. We're fighting with the school traffic every morning. And I feel like our privacy is being invaded. Especially if you have 6 floors and say I'm in my swimming pool trying to relax. You've got people that are going to be up above looking down. So that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming in today. I appreciate your time. Is there anyone else that would like to present testimony this morning? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment section of the public hearing and bring it back to the applicant, Mr. Mazurkowitz. Mr. White, I don't know what's in those letters or the petition, and I don't know, Mr. Mazurkowitz, you want a minute to take a look at them, or?
It is a collection of signatures of 57 people that appear opposed to the case.
Okay. Do you want to hand it to Mr. Mazurkowitz? Mr. Mazurkowitz, do you need a moment to review it?
No. I trust that Patrick can count the number of signatures on the petition correctly. And I think Madam Hearing Examiner, I think a lot of the concern here is something that we hear numerous times in the city of Cape Coral when we have a large tract of land, that as people buy their houses, the realtors in this city forever tell them, oh, it's going to be a park. It was never going to be a park. It was never owned by the city of Cape Coral. It's been privately owned since it's been platted. Actually, someone put that into the record in testimony today. Why we don't have, at rezoning, we don't present potential development because you can't tie a rezoning to a development. It is our plan to do a multifamily development with good amenities, decent setbacks, but the big issue is, I think everyone needs to understand, that property across the street, that 24 plus acres in the middle of their residential neighborhood, is presently entitled to 384 units in 4 stories of development without a zoning change. If this zoning change falls flat on its feet and goes nowhere, it is entitled for 384 units in 4 stories. Those folks that are worried about the sunsets that's gone. That's been fully entitled since 1989. There's been no significant or any changes or history of property values going down adjacent to a multifamily project. Where they are now, The ones I can think of immediately, going Trafalgar over the first bridge heading towards Trafalgar Middle School, turn right, you go down the street, you see a multifamily development right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. You go to, down further, down Cape Chiquita to the Cape at Savona, that's surrounded on three sides by single-family homes. Almost everything in Cape Coral that has development, multifamily development is surrounded by single-family homes. We already, actually, someone else has already talked about the roads are going to be fixed as part of the utility project going into that area the next couple of years. Part of the utilities is the city fixed the drainage and fixed the roads. So they will have new roads by the time this project is ready to go to marketplace. I think that answers the question. I mean, the traffic is, the site is already entitled to 384 units. As I put in my testimony earlier, based on existing land use, we're looking at 50 to 100 more units, but we're taking off the ability to build that, to fill that full of duplexes, which is also unavailable. That, to me, is the biggest threat to the neighborhood. You want to see property value goes down? Build duplexes all over there and live across the street from duplexes, compared from a highly amenitized, properly maintained multifamily project. Those are two distinct conditions you can see throughout the city of Cape Coral. Look in residential neighborhoods that have one side of the street duplexes, the other side single-family homes, and look at the value of those homes compared to the homes that are across the street from some of these new, highly amenitized developments. I would perceive that the value to your homes would be better with a highly amenitized development, well-maintained, than duplexes across the street. Remember, that's what can be there today. Anything from duplexes to 384 units and 4 stories. This is not like we're changing from what was supposed to be a park to 400 plus units of residential. We're changing from what, since 1989, has been designated for 384 units, 4 stories, to 50 to 100 additional units and the ability to go 5 stories. That's the change that we're looking at. The result of the change, the increased density, provides the developer to do a much better project. As staff correctly put on the record, the cost per unit, land cost, goes down so they can put more value into the units. It can be better amenities. It can be better maintained. It's going to be a gated community. They're literally going to live across the street from a gated community set back far off the street. So it's across the street. Their houses are facing this development. The development will be set back from the roads. If you're up 4 or 5 stories, you're not going to see over their roof and into their back pool. They're not going to lose that privacy. The lines of sight just don't let, physics just doesn't allow that to occur as far back as they're off the street. So I think everybody is a little bit concerned of the unknown, and they're scared of the unknown. What we have here is there is no park. There is no vacant property. It is entitled for 384 units, 4 stories now. We can build a better project with a greater density to be a better neighbor for everybody in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazurkowitz. Mr. White, you're up. Thank you. Is there any, excuse me, I'm sorry. Is there any additional testimony you would care to provide at this time?
I don't believe so, ma'am. I believe the city's made its case. Did you want me to read in the language from the petition?
How long is it?
6 lines.
Yes, please.
We, the undersigned, are against the rezoning of the existing RML to RMM because it is detrimental to the health and welfare of the entire neighborhood as it will increase traffic. This site is located in the middle of a low-density residential neighborhood. The site has frontage along only local streets, which means trips generated by development will need to travel local streets before getting to a major street. Lastly, the maximum height allowed by the RMM zoning would be quite dissimilar from the height of the surrounding single-family homes in the area.
Thank you very much.
I also wanted to fix the record. Mr. Henley did not speak to the zoning director. He spoke with me.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Anything else?
No, ma'am, that is all.
All right, thank you very much. If you could provide a copy of that to the clerk, I'm sure she'll be Happy to provide a copy to Mr. Mazurkowitz through planning staff, and I would like a copy as well via email. Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to close this hearing regarding the rezoning. I will contemplate everything everyone has said. I'm sorry, sir, the public comment is closed. I can't accept more comment. I will contemplate everything everyone has said. I'll probably go back and watch the tape to to understand your comments very clearly, including the applicants and staff and those who appeared here today. I will remind everyone, which you probably don't need a reminder, that you will have another opportunity to speak at the public hearing before the City of Cape Coral Council. My job as a hearing examiner is to provide a recommendation. It is the job of the City Council to make a final decision. With those comments, this case is closed and we're moving on to the next one. Let's take a 2-minute break to allow people that are here to leave if they so choose. You're welcome to stay, but if you choose to leave, this is a good opportunity. We stand recessed to 10:47. Thank you. If we could have the doors shut, please, so that the folks in the hallway are not going to be. All right, thank you very much. We're back on the record. Mr. Mazurkowitz, Mr. White, Mr. Mazurkowitz, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to hearing number C as in Charlie. Madam Clerk, would you call the case, please?
Case number PDP 22-000002, address 3100 Del Prado Boulevard North, applicant Wade Light. The applicant requests eliminating one tract at 3100 Del Prado Boulevard consisting of 0.49 acres from the Coral Lakes Planned Development Project, PDP. The PDP designation for this tract is commercial. However, the site has had future land use amendments and a rezoning along with a PUD under review to develop the tract as residential. Removing this tract from the PDP would also eliminate the requirement for a traffic light to be constructed at the entrance to Coral Lakes. Any person giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Boyko.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Chad Boyko, Principal Planner with the City's Planning Division. Before the applicant gives the presentation, I just want to state on the record that this case has been properly advertised. There was an ad placed within the newspaper of local circulation. There was a sign posted on the property for this case, and there were letters sent out to all residents within 500 feet, and also all residents within the Coral Lake subdivision, as that this was part of the original PDP for this, and all of this was done 10 days prior to this hearing being conducted.
I will note for the record that the applicant advised at 4:04 on Thursday afternoon that the incorrect application had been put on the website. When being advised of this, the clerk immediately put the correct documents as supplied by staff up. So kudos to the clerk for doing so. I will also note that the LDC does not provide that that is a defect that would be jurisdictionally fatal to the presentation today. So I will find that proper notice was given. Thank you.
Thank you.
However, I do want to, before anything else happens, I do want to state that I am going to continue this hearing. The reason I'm going to continue this hearing is it is legally insufficient to come before the hearing examiner. And the reason why I'm saying it is legally insufficient is that there was nothing provided by either the applicant or the staff, and of course it is the applicant's responsibility under the Land Development Code, that nothing was provided regarding consistency with the comprehensive plan. Therefore, it is legally insufficient. As a courtesy to the applicant, I am going to continue it to enable them to fix, if they so choose, to correct their application so that they can make it legally sufficient. There are also several other deficiencies in the application. I don't have a copy of the condition that is requested to be eliminated from the PDP. Absent having a copy of that, I don't know how I am expected to review and make a recommendation to City Council. Beyond that, I see that there's an applicant by the name of Wade Light who's listed. I don't see him anywhere in any documents other than in the staff report. I don't see, this is not a jurisdictional question, but I don't see an analysis of what happens if the request is not granted. That goes more towards the staff report than to the applicant, because the applicant is not required to do so. I really think that this needs to go back into some type of a process between the applicant and staff to correct some of these issues. When this hearing is continued, I would expect public safety, public works, the police, fire, and anyone else within the city who is available to testify. As the Land Development Code indicates, and as the applicant was advised through the application, the letter of intent should explain why the PDP amendment will promote public health, safety, and welfare of the community and is consistent with the public interest. I have reviewed the documents, and I would suggest to staff that we do need members of the folks with the city who are charged with the public health, safety, and welfare to be here physically to testify. But I am going to conclude my comments by saying the reason for the continuance, which I do have the legal ability to do under the Land Development Code, is that the application is legally insufficient because I have no analysis of the comprehensive plan from the applicant, and just a passing reference to the comprehensive plan with no details from the staff. So I have no ability to review anything that is not presented to me. Madam Clerk, could you tell me what days are available for the continuance, and then I would like staff and the applicant to confer and pick a date that is mutually acceptable to them.
The upcoming hearings are Tuesday, October 3rd, Tuesday, October 17th, Tuesday, November 7th, Tuesday, November 21st, Tuesday, December 5th, and Tuesday, December 19th.
Thank you very much. It's my assumption that November 21st will be canceled out of courtesy to staff, because that is Thanksgiving week, and I suspect one or two folks around here might be traveling. But the other dates that are available, why don't you folks take a minute and discuss whether October, the other ones are okay. In addition to that, I would suggest that we will proceed with the PUD today. However, if the applicant would prefer having a presentation on the same day of the continuance on the PDP for the PUD, that's fine with me. I don't have a preference either way. If that is your preference, we would have to open the PUD, of course, and then do the continuance. But if you want to go forward with the PUD today, that's fine with me. Thank you.
Just checked with the applicant, and October 17th would work for us for the continuance for the PDP amendment.
Okay, fine. So this matter, PDP 22 with the 5 zeros and the 2 is continued to October 17th, 2023 at our normal hearing time, which is 9 a.m. here in council chambers. And I would anticipate the folks that I have indicated from the city will be physically present. I would strongly suggest to the applicant that they take a real good look at their application because that legal insufficiency is a serious matter before the hearing examiner. So I am closing that hearing at this time. I'm opening the last hearing for today, and that last hearing for today, Madam Clerk, would you call it, please?
Case number PUD 22-000013, address 3100 Del Prado Boulevard North, applicant Coral Lakes SWFL LLC. Coral Lakes SWFL LLC requests a rezone of 10 acres from the Commercial C zoning district to the Residential Planned Unit Development RPUD zoning district. The applicant also seeks approval of a master concept plan that will be applicable to 34.15 acres, which includes the 10 acres part of the rezone to RPUD. If approved, this would allow a maximum of 350 dwelling units along with model homes, home-based businesses, and a temporary sales office. The site is referred to as Tract 4 within the Coral Lakes subdivision along Del Prado Boulevard North. Any persons giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning again, Mr. Boyko.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Chad Boyko, Principal Planner with the City's Planning Division. Before the applicant gives their presentation, I would like to state that this has been properly advertised. There was a ad placed with the newspaper of local circulation. There were signs that were posted on the site as well, and there were letters sent out to residents within 500 feet of the site, as well as all of the residents within the Coral Lake subdivision.
Thank you. I will find the proper notice was given. Before we proceed, Mr. Boyko, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to discuss with the applicant if it is their wish to proceed today or if they wish to proceed at another date, considering that we have just, or I have just continued the PUD. Why don't you take a couple of minutes? I don't have a preference either way, but why don't you, out of courtesy to the applicant, why don't you have that discussion? Thank you. We're in recess until 11 o'clock. Please be back at 11 o'clock, folks. All right, Mr. Boyko, we're going back on the record. It's 11 o'clock.
I spoke with the applicants, and they decided to proceed with the PUD hearing today, as it stands. Just, they wanted to have it on the record that when this goes to council, the PDP amendment and the PUD are sort of linked together in what they're looking to accomplish. So there will have to be some sort of scheduling that is done in order to ensure that when these go to council, that they are heard at the same day. So they just kind of want that on the record as it is.
I have no ability to
I understand.
to do that, and that is beyond my jurisdiction, so I can make no promises. So if their presentation today is premised on that, it's beyond the scope of my jurisdiction to address.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Sounds
you.
good.
All right, can we have the applicant up, please? Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. My name is Ron Inge, representing the applicant, which is Coral Lakes Sage LLC. During the time that from when we applied for this particular request, the ownership changed a bit, and we submitted that to staff, but I don't think it made it into the title block for the hearing today. So the owner's name is Coral Lakes Sage LLC, Randy Tebow, not Wade Light.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You may proceed, thank you.
A couple of housekeeping measures, if I may. The first was the name of the applicant. I have resumes for all the folks who will speak today. I'd like to tender to the hearing examiner, if I may.
No, the only documents I can receive are those priorly provided. However, I will say that because it was a part of the applicant's PowerPoint presentation, to the extent that you have those in your hand that reflect that PowerPoint presentation, I have reviewed them, and at the appropriate time, I will address them. I do not accept documents directly from the applicant's representative. I think that's a rule we've had for 7 years. If I've been here 7 years, I'm not sure. But I think we will proceed on that basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. My misfortune for not having appeared before you before, so I apologize if we're a little bit out of sequence
You're
on
fine.
those.
You're fine. Go ahead. Thank you.
Again, my name is Ronald Inge. I'm here representing the applicant. Madam Hearing Examiner, as you mentioned, the resumes for all of our team are in the file. Mine in particular, I have an extensive history with development and development-related issues. I've developed 3 mines, residential subdivisions, a shopping center, 2 industrial parks, and participated in the analysis, both financially and practically, of a variety of developments throughout Southwest Florida over the years, one of which you might recognize as the Whole Foods Plaza on Daniels Road and 6 Mile Parkway. And I can go further into my resume if you'd like, but I would like to be recognized by the hearing examiner as an expert in development and development-related issues based on my prior experience.
Thank you. I would like you to briefly review your educational background.
My educational background, I have a bachelor's of science degree in accounting from Stetson University. I'm a certified public accountant, certified management accountant, certified financial planner, and certified global management accountant as well. So I have a fairly extensive financial background. I served on the local planning agency for Lee County for 20 years, the longest serving member in history of Lee County, I might add. I'm currently chairman of the Lee County Conservation Lands Committee, the 2020 committee, if you will, and I serve on the Charter Review Commission for Lee County as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I will recognize you an expert in the areas you've prior indicated your request concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Hearing Examiner. Okay. See, I already messed up and pulled up the wrong presentation.
It's okay. Take your time.
My batting average is not well today.
That's okay. I am familiar with your work for Lee County folks, by the way.
You're welcome. We have our project team here today. Again, all their resumes have been submitted prior to staff. They were in our PowerPoint presentation, and at the appropriate time, I'm sure that some of them may have already been recognized as experts before the hearing examiner before, but they'll speak to various issues relating to our development at some point during this testimony. I'd also like to point out that we would like to incorporate the staff report into our presentation, except there are 4 conditions that we have alternate language that we will go over in our presentation. It's conditions 7 through 10. Otherwise, we concur with the staff report corrected to show the correct applicant name, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Duly
ma'am.
noted.
From a locational standpoint, this is part of the Coral Lakes development that was accomplished, or at least zoned, back in 2003. We're on the west side of Del Prado Boulevard in northeast Cape Coral. We're 34.15 acres. 23.35 acres are zoned RPUD, and 10.8 acres are zoned commercial currently. And this is a map showing where the property is. It's north of Kismet. You can see the Coral Lake subdivision to our west and north, and then public lands off to the right, and the academic village that the city is considering doing something with is directly to our south. So from an orientation standpoint, that's where we are on the map. A little bit of history and background, if I may. In 2003, the particular tract that we have before you today, Madam Hearing Examiner, was zoned for up to 275,000 square feet of commercial development as part of the PDP master plan for Coral Lakes, formerly known as Sunset Lakes. Our group acquired the property in 2015. We marketed the shopping center-based plan and received no real interest in that because it just wasn't the time for that. It wasn't at the intersection of two major intersections. There wasn't the ability to get in and out as easy as a shopping center might like. So we got no market response. We worked with the city staff in 2019 to alter that vision, and were able to modify the back 23.3 acres to multifamily residential future land use element and RPUD zoning, and leave the frontage as commercial, with a plan to market those commercial parcels to see if there might be an opportunity for something there as well. Well, we tried that and weren't successful either. So we stepped back again and said, all right, based on what the market's telling us, what should we do? So we approached the city last year, and the city approved LU 21-0018, which was to change that front 10.8 acres that's zoned commercial to a future land use map designation of multifamily, to set the stage, if you will, for what our vision is for this particular piece of property. And I'm going to go through that a bit in a moment with the hearing examiner's indulgence. Here is a view from the 2003 approved master concept plan showing the big box retail center that I talked about earlier, 275,000 square feet. Didn't find a lot of interest in that. So here's our request: to rezone all 34.15 acres from residential plan unit development and commercial to a planned unit development for residential as a unified parcel. And again, I'll go into the reasons for that, as will our team here in just a few moments. This is the existing future land use element, or land use map, designating and showing our parcel in the brown as all multifamily based on the actions that the city took in 2019 and 2022. Here's the current zoning. On the left is what it's zoned today, our PUD on the westerly 23 acres and commercial on the easterly 10. And then what our goal is to change it all to planned unit development in accordance with our applications. Now, if I may, Madam Hearing Examiner, I want to talk a little bit more about history and our vision and our work with the adjacent neighborhood, just to give you a little background as to why what we've requested is what we've requested and why we have some concerns for the conditions that the staff proposed. After we realized that the commercial development, the shopping center, the strip centers weren't going to work, during that time we were looking at what is the market telling us, what are some of the trends in the economy, what are some of the trends in housing in the United States in particular that might apply here locally, because as you well know, we're kind of a destination for folks, they like to come here. And one of the things that we realized after that market research was that there is a need for age-restricted, amenitized rental communities. Retirees or near retirees are starting to think, well, you know, I've got a choice here. I can either spend whatever I've accumulated in my life to own a residence and service that, or I could downsize, if you will, sell that residence, rent, and enjoy those funds that I've accumulated through whatever personal residence I have, whether it's locally or somewhere else in the country, to travel, to do other things. And so those dynamics are ongoing, and you can read about them all the time in the Wall Street Journal, and it helps set the vision for what we wanted to accomplish here. We thought, okay, there is a market niche that there's not a lot of, so let's think about how we might move forward in that regard, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. With that vision, we approached the Coral Lakes Homeowners Association and the homeowners group to say, hey, look, right now, and what has been on the books ever since you guys purchased in Coral Lakes, is this really big box retail with a lot of traffic. We're not sure that's what ought to go there. Interesting enough, they were really happy to hear that because they weren't anxious to have that in their back door. They weren't anxious to have that traffic on their roadway. And they weren't anxious to hear the dumpsters and the backup alarms and all the things that come along with commercial development and having and actually owning a shopping center. I understand that. I know some of the things that might occur with respect to that type of development very close to residential. So we met with the board of the Homeowners Association and outlined what our vision is that I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. Then we presented that to the homeowners group as a whole at one of their annual meetings to talk about our vision. And then since then, as we've gone through the process, we've continued to meet with and talk to the Coral Lakes Homeowners Association representatives just recently as last Friday to remind them that we had the hearing today, of course. We've stayed in good communication with them. And to also talk about the vision that we told you we were going to do is exactly what we're going to present, so there's no going back on that. We're not going to surprise you one day and say, oh, guess what, we're going to put Target there. No, we wanted to make sure that they were well aware that what we told them we were going to do, we're going to do. And Madam Hearing Examiner, if I may, I'd like to walk through that and show you what our vision is.
That's fine, thank you.
This is just a slide that shows the things that I just talked about in our discussions with the Homeowners Association and the homeowners group as a whole. They did submit letters of support on prior hearings for comp plan amendments and what have you, and appeared at other meetings to speak in support of what our application is, because again, they weren't real anxious to have that shopping center. We weren't either, so it was kind of an agreement to move forward together. Now, let me tell you about our vision. And before I start to show you those slides, the age-restricted active adult community, when we first started this, was something that was our concept that we wanted to prove out because we felt that it would be successful in the marketplace. Interestingly enough, we have a companion project just like this that during that time we built. And I'm going to show you some slides from that. It's on Bayshore Road, right near the Del Webb community that Pulte Homes is doing, just to the west of Raymond Lumber. One of these developments is there. And so I'm going to show you some slides from that, just from an illustrative standpoint, so you can see why we have some concerns about some of the conditions. This is a typical letter of support from the homeowners group that we were happy to receive. This is from the board of the HOA at the time, dated May 18, 2022. This is what's called Seneca at Oak Creek. This is the project I just spoke about a moment ago that is on Bayshore Road. Now, the reason I want to show these slides is because it's a companion project to what we're proposing here at Coral Lakes.
If I may interrupt you, to the left, is that Raymond, I'm trying to orient, is that Raymond Lumber to the left?
Just to the upper left-hand corner, yes, ma'am.
That's what I thought, okay, thank you.
And then the road that you see going to the left, if you will, of this development is the spine road that goes into the Del Webb community that Pulte Homes has. And then to the vacant property to the left is going to be future commercial development because a portion of that overall zoning has a commercial pod down on Bayshore Road. But as you can see, with this particular development, obviously the water management facilities, but we have multifamily units side by side that accommodate the rental residences. We have an amenity area, parking, sidewalks throughout on various areas. So this is the vision of what we want to accomplish at Coral Lakes. We're going to have a little bit of change in that to get the density up a bit, which I'll go into in a few moments. But the reason I wanted to show this slide is when we first started the process, it hadn't been completed yet. It has been. So these are just like a week old. The project itself, I know that this is not the subject of the case, but I want to talk to you about it just from a matter of background, has 190 units or so. We opened it up for rental in April or so, and we're about half full already, and we're not even in the season. So the product has absorbed quicker than we thought because the market niche that we sought seems to be right on target, which is the exact same market niche we're trying to achieve here at Coral Lakes. Here's another close-up of the amenity area. It shows the lake. It shows a pretty large pool and chairs and all that. It's got a bocce ball court. Similar facilities to what we plan at Coral Lakes. Doggy Walk Park over to the left. I'll go through these fairly quickly because I don't want to wear you out on my slides here. This is another view of the amenity area. You can see the pool, the clubhouse, sidewalks around it. And then we have sidewalks throughout the development that the way we've oriented these, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, is have the sidewalks up near the homes and then have wider streets and have, these are parking lot areas, they're not through streets, to where it will accommodate all the various foot traffic, bicycles, whatever you'd like. They don't have to go over landscaping and a sidewalk to get to those areas. It's all unified, so it makes it much easier for folks that are retired or nearing retirement to come out of their home, get on the sidewalk, walk into the parking lot, and right into the street without having to go over any guttering or any landscape areas or anything else. We moved those up against the units themselves. There's another picture of the neat clubhouse, which is active now. This is some more pictures of the amenity area. Won't bore you much with that. You've seen a million pools and bocce ball courts. You know what they look like. But it turned out pretty good. We're very happy with that. Some more pictures of our amenity area. And one of the things I want to talk about, because it's in the suggested conditions, changes to the conditions that we made, is we have big overhangs to provide shaded areas for people to socialize out of the sun and not have to sit out by the pool. This is a vision of what we're going to do different at Coral Lakes than we did over on Bayshore Road. Here, down in the southwestern part of our project, adjacent to the preserve area and lake, so shielded from the Coral Lakes residences, we plan on some 4-story buildings as well that will be part of the rental community. So that will help drive the density up. These units will surround the amenity area, and so this is where the majority of the density happens, because when we talked with the Coral Lakes Homeowners Association, they were sensitive to what they were going to see out their back door. So what we've placed all along, and what we will place all along the border to them and in the northern part of our development are the single-family units, or excuse me, single-story units, just as you see right here. So that we did to be sensitive to the concerns of the Coral Lakes residents, that they did not want to look out their back door and see these big buildings. Where we're placing them is on the southern area, much more closer to Academic Village than anything else, to be honest. And this next slide is a view of a development on the East Coast that we kind of patterned that after. You know, this is not the actual layout that will go at Coral Lakes, but just a view of how the buildings are, how the amenity area will be, to show what we're planning on doing down in that more intense density area. Here is the discussion, or to follow up on the discussion I had just a moment ago about the roadways. These roadway widths are larger than what the code requires, and it was done with a purpose, and that is, as I mentioned earlier, the sidewalks are up against the units, they're flat, they go into the homes, they come out, get into the parking area, and go right down to the street without landscape areas, without sidewalks, without guttering that people may trip over, can't get their bikes over. If someone's in a wheelchair, they won't have to worry about that. They can come out and go right into these areas, and these are parking lots. They're not travel lanes, so we don't have through streets. This is a rental community, not platted lots. And so we made the roads wider to give folks the ability to do that and traverse down to the amenity area or wherever else they want to be. If they'd like to walk along the sidewalks up against the units, they're free to do that too. But that's why we don't have sidewalks down lining the roads with gutters. And here's a view coming out of someone's unit. You can see it's flat coming out the door. There's a sidewalk. It goes in front of the unit, connects to the unit, sidewalk to the unit, to the side of it, but you don't see anything that's going to cause folks to have to stop to be able to get out to the roadway to go somewhere. We do have the car stops, of course. That's kind of typical because all of us have at one time or another maybe gotten too close to something without a car stop there, so we wanted to at least have that protection there. Now, Madam Hearing Examiner, as I mentioned, there's 4 conditions that we have concerns with, and we did present as part of our submittal to the staff those conditions on a separate document, so I believe you saw that.
I have seen it, yes, thank you.
Now, I have copies if anyone would like for me to hand them out, or if you have them, I can just go over them.
I don't need copies, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. The first one is Proposed condition 7. When we first applied for this, we didn't know what we wanted to be when we grew up in terms of layout on the site. As I mentioned, we had not finished and started, we actually hadn't gotten anywhere near completing construction of the one on Bayshore Road. We wanted to get the density up a bit in the city. We weren't sure what number we were looking for, so we applied for 350 units in total. As it turns out, even with the 4-story buildings, but honoring the commitment we made to the Cape Coral Homeowners Association and Coral Lakes Homeowners Association and Coral Oaks residents, that we would not put big buildings up next to them. The maximum number of units we can fit is somewhere between 6 and 8 or 9 units per acre. So that, I know that the staff gave us, if you will, what we asked for, which was 10 units an acre, because we asked for 350 units. Our detailed site design that we are in the process of working extensively on gets us somewhere around 6.5 to 7.5 units right in there. So what we propose is simply just a clarification to say that instead of the minimum density being 10, the minimum density is 6 and the max is 10.25.
You're probably aware of the fact, Mr. Inge, that it's unusual for an applicant to request a condition like this, so go ahead.
Well, I do a lot of unusual things, so that's probably just one more. But we wanted to be able to, well, if I may, ma'am, the reason we wanted to talk about that is if we have to do 10 units an acre, we're going to have to put 4-story buildings up against the Coral Lakes residents.
I understand what you're saying, it's just, I'm impressed by the reduction in density, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let me move on to the next condition. Without having the view of what our other project turned out to be, staff was kind of operating in a vacuum, honestly. They did not know kind of what our vision was. So I had the opportunity just recently to meet with Chad and his team to say, hey, here's some photos of what we actually built. Here's why perimeter sidewalks, which will go behind the backs of every unit and look into everyone's back door, and sidewalks along the streets, which might cause impediment for people to get from their door to the travel areas to go to the amenity areas or elsewhere. Those aren't workable. So what we proposed is, again, a modification of condition number 8 to state that we'll have sidewalks and continuous pathways throughout our development, much as you saw in those photos that we provided. And then we'll plant canopy trees where appropriate. Now, we've got to be careful where to plant those because, as you well know, certain types of canopy trees have a big root structure and they'll eat up the parking lot or tear up the sidewalks next to the units. So we're going to have to work with staff during development permitting to kind of designate where those areas should be. Suffice it to say, we have some other conditions to provide some shaded areas in addition to the clubhouse photos that I showed a moment ago. So this is a suggested condition to address the sidewalk area to allow us to do what those what those photos showed. And Madam Hearing Examiner, if I may, we've gone over every one of these conditions with staff, and I'm sure that Chad will talk about what he thinks about those as well. But they've been provided to him, and they were courteous enough to meet with me last week to go over these as well. Here's condition 9. A request by staff condition 9 to say that the amenity center would be 5 acres in size. Well, that's pretty big. That would be 5 acres out of 35 acres. What is that, 14% of the site or something? Pretty extensive. Entrada, that's down the road from us, that has 60 acres, has a 3-acre amenity area, so right around 1%. We looked at other developments in the city, multifamily, and their amenity areas were 1%, less than 1%, 2%. So what we're proposing, and I think the concern from staff was, well, okay, if you're going to have an amenitized community, then prove it. So what we did is we outlined in our suggested language that we'll have amenity areas consisting of those shown on the master concept plan, and then south of where we have the amenity area near the Florida Power and Light easement, there's also an area where we're going to construct either pickleball courts or tennis courts, maybe another doggy walk park, and other things. So we will have at least 2 acres, a minimum of 2 acres, and then all of these things that we've listed are the type things we're going to have in the amenity area. So I guess the concern staff might have had is, all right, you guys are probably just going to put a field there and nothing will happen, or you could. That's not our plan at all, because honestly, we know what the folks would like to have, and if we are trying to rent an amenitized community for retirees or near retirees and we have nothing there, they're not going to rent there. So we've got to have things that will attract them and keep them active. And these are some ideas of some types of things that we'll have there, because that's what we did up the street. So that's why we have language here to help clarify that. Staff condition 10, the way that that was kind of written would require us to put a gazebo or something on the lake that you see in the master concept plan. Our concern with that is that it might conflict with the surface water management permit, but more importantly, that's a water retention feature, and we really didn't want to encourage people to congregate on that because all the residents around it, their back doors or their back patios face that lake. So now we're going to put social areas looking in the back doors of everyone. But I think the staff's concern was, well, okay, you got to have some shaded area and gathering areas for folks. So we propose a condition that says that we'll have a minimum of 2 covered pavilions in either the amenity area or the open space area right south of that, the areas I just spoke to you about, Madam Hearing Examiner, where we'll have our pool, our dog park, our bocce ball, our pickleball, tennis court, whatever. We'll have at least 2 covered pavilions there, in addition to the covered area at our amenity area that people can gather under to get out of the sun. So those are some vision ideas that I want, or not ideas, but vision points that I wanted to speak to you about, Madam Hearing Examiner, so you would see why we've proposed these changes to the conditions to fit with what we'd like to do, because we have a model that we've already built and we know that what works, and we want to make sure we're able to do that here as well. And so that's really what led us to request from the staff that we be able to provide language to modify conditions 7 through 10. And as you mentioned, you have those that language for consideration. We have our team of experts here. Nelson Taylor is going to talk about market analysis and this product, why this product works here. Yuri Baikal will talk about our traffic analysis. You're going to be surprised, although you've gone through the presentation, so you know the decrease in traffic over the shopping center plan. Bill Morris is going to talk about not only the environmental analysis, but our stormwater management, our utility design, the design of the pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and Ben Smith will talk about land use planning and zoning analysis. And each of those folks, certainly the last 2, will touch on those conditions with additional support if the hearing examiner would like it, on why we propose the conditions that we did. So that concludes my particular portion, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, or we'll bring up Nelson, and then I'll be available later on if you'd like.
Thank you. I have no questions at this time.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
I'm not going to ask each person as they come up if they were sworn in, because I saw a bunch of people stand up, so I'm going to assume that you were sworn in, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, I think I've done it 3 times. Good morning. Nelson Taylor, the Vice President of Market Research for LSI Companies, and I'm requesting to be sworn in as an expert witness as it relates to market analysis and land use suitability due to my qualifications and experience. I think in the submittal with my resume, if you want me to go through it, more than happy.
I would like you to go through some of your more recent experience as you deem appropriate, and also your educational background. Thank you.
Sure. So I have an undergraduate degree from Florida State in real estate. I have a master's degree from the University of Denver in real estate. I'm an accredited land consultant, as well as a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, which is the creator of the International Valuation Standards. I'm a certified general commercial real estate appraiser, and I've been doing appraisals and valuations and positioning reports since 2009.
I will find you as an expert based upon your recitation of your credentials, also based upon your providing your CV prior to today through the PowerPoint. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
So in our submittal package, I have included a land use suitability analysis that highlights the changing retail landscape, which is part of the reasoning for this proposed change from the commercial to the multifamily. So if there's any questions you have on that study I submitted, that I'll be happy to answer any of those questions. As part of the overall analysis, it highlights just the changing landscape of retail usage. You can see the previous site plan was for the 275,000 square foot facility, and then we changed it to the frontal commercial out parcels, and then now we're changing it to the multifamily. So the retail environment is generally constantly changing, and to this day, they generally consider it as being overbuilt nationally and locally. So what's occurring is we're still trying to absorb older commercial developments until such time as we can start to put in place newer stuff. There was a recent report by the updated Reinhold Wolf, which supported the multifamily use that we're proposing on this site, which continues to show a shortfall, even though there's quite a few projects under construction and in the pipeline for rezoning. So that equally supports kind of my analysis of the highest and best use as going from commercial to more multifamily. I've put together a couple slides here. So this is the shopping center at Kismet and Del Prado. This is the shops at North Cape Coral. So this was started in 2007 and typically is operated with the inline retail space as above market vacancies in the 20 to 30%. The out parcels are still 2 available since 2007, so for 16 years they've been trying to attract users to those. This is generally kind of what the space fundamentals as retailers look for when they kind of decide when it's time to go into a market. So they look at what the population forecast changes, and they look at the per square foot of floor area already in existence. So if you take the total population change for a 5-year period for Cape Coral, which is about 20,000, with the 9.5 million square feet already in existence, you get what you see here is about 50 square feet per person.
What would you call a power center? I'm not familiar with that term.
So a power center would be kind of like more your Target style, so where it would be a larger anchor user. So they typically...
Like a big box, you mean?
Yeah, they typically are 100,000 square feet or more.
And do you think the trend is away from big box? Just, I think you had said that. I just want to clarify my own mind.
Yes, it is. It's been kind of changing that for a while. There are some standalone ones coming out there on Alico where you'll see kind of the Floor and Decor and Home Depot. I think there's a Floor and Decor application on Pine Island Road, but it's in the county currently being submitted. But what you can see here is there's about 50 square feet per person in the Cape Coral market, which the national average is about 35. So that's generally why we haven't really seen a lot of new retail development. It's because we're kind of just absorbing the old and just changing spaces with a revolving tenant door. So that's generally why we've been struggling to attract tenants to this location or any type of commercial development to it. When you just hold constant at 50 square feet with the population change, you would need about 1 million square feet of new development over the next 5 years, which on a 25% site coverage ratio would be about 90 acres. So if Academic Village to the south of us, which I know is in negotiations for a contract with the city, it could accommodate 5 years worth of commercial need for all of Cape Coral if it were developed to that maximum intensity. It probably won't be, but what I think is the key to everything that I'm kind of putting forward is that I don't want to give up commercial for Cape Coral because I know it's always a valued use, but I would like to see underutilized and poor located commercial be put to a better use, which will then only support better, superior located commercial uses like Academic Village, which I'm assuming the developer of that parcel will likely need more rooftops to support from retail users coming in. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions.
Thank you. I'm always curious about trends in commercial versus residential, so I always appreciate being educated. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, Yuri Baika with TR Transportation Consultants. I've been sworn in to give you a brief background information about me.
Excuse me, I am very well aware of your credentials. You've
Okay.
been here quite a bit. Well, I don't know if it's quite a bit, but some. So I'm assuming that you're requesting to be admitted as a expert today.
Yes, ma'am.
And in what areas?
Transportation planning.
I will recognize you as an expert for transportation planning based upon your CV, which has been provided prior to today, and also based upon your prior testimony regarding the matters which are not dissimilar to what we're discussing today.
Thank you very much. As part of our traffic analysis, we first prepared a trip generation comparison. As previously mentioned, the existing zoning allows for up to 275,000 square feet of commercial uses, and we are requesting 300 multifamily uses. The trip generation comparison was completed consistent with the latest IT trip generation manual, which is a required source for us to use to come up with traffic projections for developments. And so here, Table 4 shows you the difference between the approved zoning and the proposed zoning. As you can see, by changing to multifamily, it's a very significant reduction in traffic, especially when you look at the daily trips generated. More specifically, the daily trip duration is reduced by almost 82%. So I just want to emphasize it's a very significant reduction in traffic from what's currently can be developed today. And also, the site will be served by two entrances. Our main entrance will be to Del Prado Boulevard, directly opposite of the existing median opening there. And our secondary entrance will be to Coral Lakes Boulevard to the north, which subsequently connects to Del Prado Boulevard. But again, our main entrance, where most of the traffic will be coming to and from to the site, will be directly of our access to Del Prado Boulevard. And so we agree with the following statement in the staff report, that the homes in Coral Lakes are also likely to not feel the effects of any additional traffic, as most of the newly generated traffic will be utilizing the Del Prado Boulevard entrance or the Coral Lakes entrance, which is close to Del Prado Boulevard.
Do you know what the level of service on Del Prado is at this time? I see you're projecting C.
Yeah, let me check real quick. It is also C.
Okay, thank you.
So even though our traffic analysis shows a significant reduction in trips, we still did our typical link level service analysis on the surrounding roadways. And in this case, we included Del Prado Boulevard adjacent to our site, and it was shown to operate at acceptable level of service C, or in other words, with sufficient capacity in the future build-out project traffic conditions that included the traffic from 350 multifamily dwelling units. And that pretty much summarizes my traffic analysis. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, my name is Bill Morris. I'm president of Morris Depew Associates. I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Florida. I have been practicing as such for over 23 years now. While I have testified as an expert in the city of Cape Coral and other proceedings, I have not done so before the hearing examiner to this point. So I will be happy to go through my experience if you desire to hear it, but otherwise am asking to be qualified as an expert in civil engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. If you could briefly go through your educational credentials, and I know you have a long and storied career in Lee County.
Thank you.
So I would prefer not to hear all of it, but perhaps some of it that would give me sort of an overview. I'd appreciate it.
Happy to do so. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Florida, conveyed in 1995. I have been the engineer of record for a multitude of projects throughout the state of Florida, notably in the city of Cape Coral, and most recently a 20-acre single-family residential project out west on Cape Coral Parkway called Sunset Lakes that was developed by D.R. Horton maybe about 5 years ago. I have done a number of medium to small scale retail developments throughout the city of Cape Coral, convenience store type developments. I have done, I am the continuing service provider as a civil engineer to Lee Health.
I think I get the drift. And
Thank
I'm sure you designed your own building on 41, so.
Actually, my father did that one,
Oh, your
so he
father.
gets the blame for it.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, we'll go past that one then. I will find you as an expert based upon your recitation of your qualifications, your educational background, and based upon your providing your CV prior to today through the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The project that you have before you has a fairly lengthy history, as Mr. Inge had indicated during his presentation. The subject property is included within an environmental resource permit that was issued by South Florida Water Management District. I have two different dates for that, either 2003 or 2004, depending on what you're looking at. But in any case, the subject property, which is denoted by the yellow outline, is adjacent to a preserve area that was created out of that environmental resource permit referred to as Tract P1, which is located west of the subject property. Unfortunately, our environmental consultant had a conflict with the hearing today, so I was tapped to recite some of the key points out of his presentation, his report rather, that are relevant to the application. One of those is the flux map, the on-site survey that Mr. Stejkal, whose name I always creatively pronounce, indicated there are no jurisdictional wetlands found on the subject property. There are, most of the subject property is classified as disturbed, as previously cleared and filled. And the remaining area is either under the existing transmission lines, which is shown in the area along the southern boundary by that long strip rectangle, or in the surface water management lake that is the small amorphic blob in the southwest corner.
When you say no jurisdictional, you mean nothing under the jurisdiction of the city of Cape Coral, I'm assuming?
Nothing that the Water Management District would classify, or the DEP would classify as jurisdictional wetland.
Understood, thank you.
Mm-hmm. The stormwater management system for the Coral Lakes development is a common master system that was approved under the environmental resource permit. It was converted, or at least the portions of it that exist today were converted to operations status by the South Florida Water Management District in 2017. The subject tract runoff from that tract will be conveyed into that master surface water management system after water quality and storm attenuation are provided in accordance with South Florida Water Management District and City of Cape Coral regulations. And you can see from the graphic here, there are a series of white arrows shown that can show the general path that the water flows from the project site to ultimately the Lewis Canal. The last arrow that's shown between the Coral Lakes development and the Lewis Canal indicates roughly the location of the master control structure for surface water management. There are a total of 3 provided overall for the Coral Lakes development. And the other one is further to the west and outfalls to the Shapiro Canal, and there's another one on the south that outfalls to what's referred to in the permit as wetland number 5. And again, citing from information from the ecologist's report, the protected species survey detected no protected species on site. What has been provided with this is a map of the transects that were walked as an excerpt from his report, just providing that information for your consideration as a part of the presentation. This information will be required to be updated as a part of subsequent applications for construction to South Florida Water Management District and to the City of Cape Coral. Water, sanitary sewer, and irrigation utilities are all provided by the City of Cape Coral Utilities. There will be some modifications that need to be made to the existing infrastructure as a part of the proposed development, including, not the least of which, relocation of an existing 12-inch water main that was constructed in a location that was sympathetic to the original big box commercial development that you saw in the presentation earlier. That doesn't unfortunately comport with the layout of the proposed development, so we'll be making normal routine modifications to that. The water and sewer demand for the project, as you can see from the information provided in the slide, is roughly 52,500 gallons per day for water and sewer. Irrigation demand is based on the city standard application of 1.5 inches per week over the irrigated areas. This next slide, so we were made aware of a concern that was passed to us, I believe, from yourself regarding pedestrian and bicycle or tricycle circulation and how a bike lane might be incorporated into the design of the project. And if I misquoted that, please let me know.
And let me provide a little, and excuse me, I have a cough drop in my mouth, so I apologize
Sure.
for being a little muddled. Let me provide some background. That was indeed from me. I'm sure everyone in this room is conversant with the statistics regarding bike fatalities in Lee County and in Southwest Florida in general. And if there is a not only two wheels, but as our population here ages, obviously there's a possibility, let's call it, of three-wheeled bicycles being implemented. And I wanted to get a specific focus on that, on the bike lane in general, but also possibly a expanded bike lane for that purpose. And my understanding is that bicyclists like to ride side by side, which perhaps cannot be accommodated, but I appreciate you taking the time to specifically address that question. It's if you're familiar with the hearing examiner, I often focus on things like the bicycle issue, so
Sure.
Thank you for that.
And for residential development, we understand that these are important considerations. And I can tell you, and to echo what Mr. Enge said earlier that you heard, this has been considered as a part of the project design with the width of the circulation ways, we'll call them. But I wanted to first make a distinction that I think is important. This is not a traffic intense type of development. This is a much lower population, lower volume development, and which is why we're able to use a parking aisle or a bunch of interconnected parking aisles for circulation of both not only vehicles but also pedestrian, bicycle. And for the purposes of my brevity, I'm going to use bicycle as a catch-all for bicycles, tricycles, in terms of context. But in any event, I think there's a distinction that we have to look at relative to a roadway and a parking aisle as a part of the way that we were looking at the design. And roadways tend to be for higher volume, higher traffic thoroughfares that a separation of vehicles from pedestrians and bicycles is a much more critical consideration, which is why designated lanes and pedestrian separations are found on those particular types of facilities. When you go and you look at a parking aisle or parking lot, by contrast, it's slower speeds. There's an expectation that you're going to have pedestrians and potentially bicycles mixing in with the vehicular traffic. And you see this phenomenon occurring in lots of smaller residential neighborhoods, such as the one that's proposed before you today, where you have that mix of activities that are all taking place in the same space. I myself live in it's a single-family neighborhood, but that only has 20-foot wide streets, no sidewalks, and every single day it is a combination of people coming and going in their cars, but also walking, riding bikes, etc., all in the same space. It is never an issue. And when you live in a community that has those things, there is an expectation that is created by the people who operate those different things oh, look, there's a car coming over, I'll start to move off to the side, or whatever they feel comfortable with when they're operating in that environment. Cars know that they have to give leeway when necessary. It's just a common part of the way that these things work, and it doesn't pose a particular safety issue for those things. In fact, I think having them all in the same space where there is an expectation and there is clear visibility adds to the level of safety, because it's right in front of you. It's not a situation where you're surprised by something coming from some place that is either obscured or is just not in your direct field of view.
Thank you, I appreciate that expanded explanation.
Thank you. And if that satisfies any concerns that you have, I will belabor any further points.
Well, you're not belaboring, but I get your drift, and I understand what's on this slide. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it just wanted to come back to some of the things that you saw earlier, just to kind of reinforce the commentary. But that these are lower scale, lower volume, less intense projects where these activities all occur commonly in the same places without incident. That concludes my presentation, unless you have any particular questions for me at this point.
I have no questions, and I appreciate you indulging me asking questions during the course of your presentation. Not everybody's really crazy about that, so thank you for that.
If I can help, I'm happy to do so, and I will continue to be here if anything else comes to mind. And I will, at this point, pass along to Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. I'm Ben Smith. I'm a certified planner and I'm a director of planning at Morris Depew Associates. I don't believe I've had the pleasure of presenting before you today, so in the theme of describing our backgrounds, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of description about mine. I have been practicing as a planner for 16 years. Almost 10 of those years, I have been AICP certified. The focus of most of my career has been on providing planning and zoning services to local governments throughout the state of Florida. So I've worked in a lot of different jurisdictions, including many local jurisdictions here to Southwest Florida. I graduated from University of Florida, and I currently provide planning services to several local jurisdictions. So I have acted in a staff capacity, and so I want to say that I certainly appreciate and understand how much work staff has put into this, and just want to thank staff for really working with us to get this in front of you today. Do you want to hear any specifics about my work experience?
No, that's fine. And what area do you wish to be considered as an expert?
Land use planning and zoning.
All right, thank you. I will recognize you as an expert based upon your recitation of your qualifications and educational background, as well as your provision of your CV through the PowerPoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Examiner. First, I'd like to touch on compatibility as it relates to this project. To the west, we have the existing single-family residential Coral Lakes community, as well as the preserve area that was mentioned previously. To the north, we have the recently approved single-family attached community that is also part of the Coral Lakes PDP. To the east, obviously, we have the Yellow Fever Creek Preserve, which is a large recreation area with quite a few different types of recreational opportunities. To the south is the Academic Village property, and while it is still currently vacant, the mixed-use future land use that property is designated as tells us a little bit about how that will be developed, and that there is a limitation on the amount of standalone residential that can be developed there. So it's expected that there will be a significant non-residential component to that Academic Village property. Also, as was mentioned, we have that the Shops at North Cape, it's the public shopping center, as well as the industrial complex to the southwest. So we do have quite a variety of land uses in the immediate area here. And as we move through this, we're going to talk about how multifamily in this location provides that transition of intensity that is expected by your comp plan and encouraged. Here's the surrounding zoning. I think you've already seen this, a version of this, and so I won't belabor it, but in my professional opinion, the request that we're here before you today with is compatible, and the RPUD zoning is complementary to the surrounding zoning designations. Here's our proposed master concept plan. Obviously, you were provided with this ahead of time, so I don't want to go over it in too detail, other than it does provide for the depiction of general location of residential areas, parking areas, vehicle circulation routes, the designated amenity center, stormwater management areas, points of ingress and egress for vehicles, and also for the designated open space areas that are required to a certain percentage. A couple things I did want to point out is there we have a labeling in the northeast corner for the proposed bus stop. That is actually the approximate current location where the school buses do pick up, and we actually confirmed with district staff that that is the best location for that, and so the applicant is proposing to add a amenity feature there for the school bus area. Also want to point out the Academic Village connection point. Though we do not know exactly how that will be developed, we wanted to point out that if there's an opportunity to provide a pedestrian connection there, that will be done. Here, the proposed landscape plan that accompanies our master concept plan just provides for that the general standards that this project will be landscaped to, including all the buffering that is required per the city's code. On the schedule of uses, I would like to note that the applicant has agreed to remove the duplexes that were previously listed, and we have no problem with that. So no single-family detached, no duplexes are proposed as part of this development. We provided a fairly lengthy, what I consider lengthy narrative to describe how this project is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. I don't want to go over that entire narrative. However, there are a few summary points that I would like to make. Number one, that the existing commercial designation is not consistent with the multifamily future land use designation. So a rezoning is necessary just to bring the property into compliance with the comprehensive plan. Secondly, the multifamily in this location does meet the locational guidelines for multifamily that are provided in the comp plan. Specifically, policy 1.7 provides future land use policy 1.7 provides locational guidelines, which this does meet. And that the comp plan also talks about that transition of intensity, and that's this locating multifamily here where you have the anticipated predominantly non-residential development of Academic Village and the single-family residential, locating it in between those two disparate types of land uses does provide for that transitional intensity. And not to belabor the point, in case we wanted to discuss it, we added this slide. Here are the locational guidelines that we feel this property is in compliance with. And just for the record, the property is provided with a full suite of public services. Now I just want to touch on providing a little bit of planning and zoning context for some of the the revisions that we're requesting to conditions 7 through 10. First of all, when we look at how we put this application together with the maximum of 300 dwelling units, that comes to a density of about 10.25 dwelling units per acre. So if we were to then add a minimum density of 10 dwelling units per acre, it really puts the project in a bit of a box. It doesn't allow for the flexibility that is envisioned by the PUD, and more importantly, it doesn't allow for the range of intensity of the structures that the applicant is proposing. So as you heard from Mr. Inge, taller 4-story multifamily structures located closer to Academic Village, around the amenities, single-story multifamily structures located closer to the single-family residential that's existing. So not only do we have that transition of intensity by providing multifamily in this location, but having that wider range of densities allowed by the minimum of 6 and the maximum of 10.25 allows the site to transition within itself across the site. And also, most importantly, this is consistent with what was represented to the HOA, and they have been supportive of this project based on that vision that was shared with them. So, again, what we are proposing is the minimum of 6, the maximum of 10.25. And we feel that it really fulfills the objective of the PUD, allows us to provide that innovation that's envisioned as part of the city's guidelines for PUDs. With condition 8, a perimeter sidewalk, as Mr. Inge mentioned, the way this project is being designed, a perimeter sidewalk is going to run behind a lot of dwelling units that are located with their porches backing up to the border of this development. So the concern is that there'll be an infringement on privacy that is expected on a lot of these back porches. So that is a little bit problematic, and I think the condition that we're proposing fulfills the goal that was intended by providing pedestrian circulation and providing for that functionality and that access to the amenity areas on foot or with bicycle access or what have you.
Could you educate me regarding what you consider to be the distinction between sidewalks and continuous pathways?
I feel that I would state that a continuous pathway is a more encompassing term that could allow for a variety of types of paths throughout the development.
Are you talking about concrete versus permeable surfaces? Are you talking about width, or I'm not clear what you're talking about?
Well, what we're trying to accomplish with this proposed condition is to have that flexibility once this is actually being designed, which is, as I think is most often expected with a PUD, that we're not proffering an actual site plan as part of this rezoning. We are putting forth this master concept plan, conceptual in nature, and we would submit that the conditions associated with that rezoning should also be more flexible in nature and allow for site design to occur after the rezoning process. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Regarding the amenity center, we definitely understand staff's goal with this proposed condition. We definitely want to provide, the applicant wants to provide amenities to these residents. It's what's going to make the project successful, as Mr. Inge mentioned. So we appreciate that and would respond that I think providing a little bit of specificity in terms of the types of amenities that the applicant is willing to offer is also in that same interest, and that the applicant has a lot of experience, as was discussed, in developing these types of communities, and is confident that 2 acres is more than sufficient to provide a range of amenities to the development. And the way that that will be done is the existing amenity area that was shown on the concept plan, that's approximately 1 acre. And then to expand on that, that the applicant is willing to utilize some of the open space area that's located in the southern part of, maybe it would be helpful to actually look at the master concept plan. So that when you look into that southwestern portion of the site, there's actually a large open space area where the applicant is proposing to utilize a portion of that towards active and passive recreational opportunities like dog parks and things like that. Here, really, the proposed condition, there was just, we would like to make sure that there are no conflicts with the lake maintenance easement, the drainage easement, and we want to make sure that there's no increased liability with having someone utilize an area around a water body. So recognizing that covered, shaded areas are important and are a great recreational amenity, they would like to commit to 2 covered pavilions, but just have the flexibility to decide where they're located on the site, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Here, we absolutely agree with staff's assessment of the rezoning criteria, so I won't expand on this unless you would like me to do so. We agree with the staff report in this regard, and that the rezoning is consistent with LDC section 3.4.6B.
Well, Mr. Inge has incorporated the staff report into the overall presentation, so to the extent that the staff report addresses these, you're certainly welcome to augment that, but it's not necessary since it is incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding the specific criteria, the criteria that are specific to a PUD review, we would submit that our request addresses and is consistent with all of the PUD review criteria, and that the MCP review criteria provided in the city's land development code. I believe we've demonstrated that today in our presentation and our application. However, if you would like me to expand on any of these points, I'm happy to do so. We did provide this analysis in our narrative.
I don't require additional testimony on this subject. Once again, the staff report addresses some of this. And so it's up to you if you want to provide additional testimony, but if you feel that it's adequately covered, I'm okay with moving on. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Examiner. Before I turn it back over to Mr. Inge, I just want to summarize a few key points. The proposed request is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the city's land development code. It is compatible and complementary to and supportive to the surrounding land uses. And the applicant's proposed development is innovative and unique, especially when you consider the type of development that is being offered in the context of the largely R1 zoning single-family development that's found throughout the city. We would offer that this is considerably more unique and different than the typical land use pattern throughout the city. So in that regard, we feel that we have met the intent of the PUD requirements, and that concludes my presentation, unless you would have any other questions for me.
I have no questions, Mr. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Hearing Examiner Ron Inge again. If you'd like, I'll wait to wrap up till after the staff is presented, just in the event there are some issues that come up that I may need to address, if that's
Fine.
acceptable to you.
That's fine, because you do have an additional opportunity after public comment to address it.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think that's
So I'll wait until then. Thank you.
That's fine. All right. All right. Mr. Boyko, you're up. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon at this point, Madam Hearing Examiner. Once again, Chad Boyko, Principal Planner with the city's Planning Division. Based upon my previous testimony before you, my credentials that can be obtained at the City Clerk's office, I would like to be recognized as an expert witness as well for the purposes of land use and planning for this.
I will find you as an expert witness for purposes that you've articulated based upon your CV, which is on file with the clerk's office, and also based upon your, your testimony in other hearings regarding matters that are similar to those appearing today. Do you wish to incorporate your staff report into your presentation as well?
I do wish to incorporate into my presentation.
I suspected you might, so have at it. Thank you.
All right. So we have before you this morning the Coral Lakes RPUD under PUD 2213. The applicant for this is Coral Lakes Sage LLC. There were some ownership changes that we're going through here, so if you had seen any of the previous applications, there were some procedural sort of ownership changes that went along with this at the time this was submitted up until the time that this has been heard before the hearing examiner. The location is an address on Del Prado Boulevard, 3100 Del Prado Boulevard North. The size of the site is 34.15 acres. It is within the transition area of our urban services boundary, which means that city utilities are either available or will be available to the site, and in this case for this, the utilities are currently available to the site from the city of Cape Coral. And then the applicant's request, they have sort of a two-part request with this. The first is they're looking to rezone 10 acres of the site from the commercial zoning district to the residential planned unit development district or the development or the RPUD district. And then the other is they would like to take and incorporate a master concept plan for the entire 34.15 acre site. The portion of the site that is not already zoned, or that is already zoned RPUD, would have that master concept plan that would kind of fold in to cover the entirety of the site. So the existing zoning and the proposed zoning, we have a couple of maps that are before you. The existing zoning, we mentioned before, it's sort of a split zoning currently. You have around 24 acres that is currently zoned RPUD, and then there's a 10-acre frontage tract or sliver that is located along Del Prado Boulevard that currently has a zoning of commercial. And then the applicant's request, as one of the two-prong requests as part of this, is they would like to take the entirety of that tract to the RPUD zoning district. So what is a planned unit development? We've kind of gone over this in the past with a few of our projects previously, but per our land development code, it is an area designed for development as a cohesive unit where you can sort of have uses that are tailored to a project, and where you can hopefully incorporate innovations in design and layout that allows for public benefits and gives you sort of a more robust project than you would normally find with your traditional or conventional zoning. So the two components of a PUD, which you have both of these within this particular request, is you have a rezone to a PUD zoning district, which they're looking to go to the RPUD, and then also too is the approval of a master concept plan, which was not done previously with that rezone for the 24 acres that was done to RPUD back in 2019. It was just given within our land development code, you have an option just to do a rezone to a PUD. That was done for those 24 acres, and this would actually incorporate a master concept plan for the entirety of the development. We've briefly gone over what the requests are, the rezoning of 10 acres to RPUD, and then they're looking for a master concept plan approval for the following. Their request was a maximum of 350 residential units, some model homes, home-based businesses, temporary sales office, and then they were also seeking some other accessory residential uses such as garages, carports, and some things that you might typically find within a residential development community. So some brief site history. It's already gone over by the applicant, but I'll just kind of run through it quickly for you. The site is Tract 4 within the Coral Lakes PDP and subdivision, which was approved approximately in 2004. It has undergone several PDP amendments over the course of the years, adding uses, differentiating the uses for those. This was actually approved within that original ordinance as purely a commercial tract, which would provide around 250,000 square feet of commercial uses on Tract 4. That original master concept plans showed sort of your big box power center layout, where you might have a Publix or a Target or a Lowe's or some things along those lines, along with some commercial out parcels along Del Prado Boulevard. Those plans were changed. We mentioned previously in 2019, you had the 24 acres that underwent a couple of entitlement changes. It was changed from the mixed use land use to the multifamily land use, and then it was also rezoned to the RPUD without a master concept plan approval. The eastern 10 acres of this was amended to the multifamily future land use back in 2022. And what the zoning was not changed at the time, which is why you have the PUD in front of you. We mentioned the Tract 4 remains undeveloped, and they have also filed a PDP amendment to remove Tract 4 from the Coral Lakes PDP, which would sort of remove that commercial requirement for this to be developed with the commercial uses, which doesn't match with the land use anymore as is, and also to remove the requirement that was a condition within that original PDP to have a traffic light installed at the time of CO for any development within Tract 4. So some quick site characteristics of Tract 4 is that it's undeveloped. It has frontage on Del Pardo Boulevard, which is a principal arterial. It's at the intersection of Del Pardo Boulevard and Coral Lakes Drive. Coral Lakes Drive just being sort of the entrance road into the Coral Lakes subdivision. It is bounded to the west by a preserve area. It abuts a large city-owned tract to the south that is currently planned for mixed-use development. The city of Cape Coral just went under contract with that site. It was formerly known as Academic Village back in the day when it was looking to be developed as a sort of a satellite campus for FGCU. The name is stuck, but it's undergone a couple of changes, and now they're looking to do a mixed-use development on that, which will have some multifamily, some commercial, some industrial uses along those lines. And then the rest of the surrounding area consists of single-family homes and townhomes to the north and west past the reserve. And then to the east across Del Pardo Boulevard, you have a City of Cape Coral and Leake County sort of joint area, which is basically park preservation area. So before you, we have sort of the master concept plan that the applicant has submitted for the 34 acres. It is typical to what you might see with a multifamily development where you have some areas of the residential, the parking areas that are leading up into those residential areas. It has that amenity center, which is the dark green pentagon, hexagonal shape within the southeast corner of the site. You see that preserve area that's around there, and they kind of mentioned that there's going to be, for sidewalks along those areas, they have a note that talks about where the sidewalks will sort of generally be provided for this, and they discuss that there will be at least 25% open space for this project as well. So some quick characteristics. We're looking at access from Del Pardo Boulevard and Coral Lakes Drive. You would also have an optional access, emergency access that could be provided on Del Pardo Boulevard that is just south of the main entrance off of that roadway. You do have residential areas along with the internal drive aisles. You have a amenity center that is shown on the plan. Their maximum building height is stated on their master concept plan, 45 feet. And they are also showing a optional or potential access to the Academic Village mixed-use project that would be developed to the south of this site. So some quick background on some of the characteristics of this in terms of like the access, transportation, utilities. We mentioned where the access is looking to be located from, which is Del Pardo Boulevard and Coral Lakes Drive. There were no offsite improvements that were required as part of the applicant's submitted TIS, and also our transportation and public works staff also did not indicate that there would be any offsite improvements required as part of this. The proposed residential component will reduce trips from the previously approved commercial component. When you're looking at a commercial square footage of around 250,000 square feet, that's a pretty large commercial development, which means a lot of trips. With the residential that would be going here and not even really being built to that to a high density of 25 units per acre, you're looking at a substantial reduction in vehicular trips for this site. And then we mentioned previously that the applicant is looking to get rid of the traffic light condition for this, and we talked about how there is water, sewer, and irrigation available to the site. The applicant's proposed schedule of uses, that's smaller than I expected it to be up on the screen, but the applicant and staff, we agreed with all of their proposed uses that was to go into this. The only thing that we had recommended to remove as part of this is the duplex dwelling. Staff found that with a multifamily site that has frontage on a principal arterial, duplexes were not sort of the highest and best use that you could incorporate into that kind of development. So we recommended that that be taken out of their schedule of uses, and they had indicated in their presentation that they agree with staff's recommendation for that. So the other uses that we agree with are the multifamily, the single family attached, and the similar townhome types uses, and also the accessory uses that they're looking to put in for this master concept plan. The next thing we looked at, we analyzed this per our land development code. There are 6 standards for rezones, which will also apply to the analysis for PUDs. The first is whether the proposed district is compatible, consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. Staff finds that the requested RPUD is consistent with the multifamily future land use designation. The second standard is whether the full range of uses allowed in the proposed district will be compatible with the existing uses in the area under consideration. And staff finds that the residential uses are going to be wholly compatible with the surrounding areas, which are primarily residential to this point. There is developed residential to the north and the west. There is a mixed use proposed to the south, which we'll hit later, and there's parklands to the east. Obviously, with the single family or with the multifamily uses going in and at a pretty low density as the applicant has provided, even taking aside whether it's a minimum of 10 acre required minimum of 10 acres or the 6 acres that the applicant had discussed, those uses will still be compatible with the existing residential that is located within Coral Lakes. And then staff finds that the multifamily has adequate access and frontage along the principal arterial, so you're not going to be sort of sticking a larger multifamily development into an area of, primarily single-family uses that are going to be driving and, adding trips to a single-family road network, kind of like we heard in a previous rezoning from this morning. This has all of the majority of the access and, ingress, egress will be focused on Del Prado Boulevard. The third standard is whether the range of uses in the proposed district will be compatible with existing and potential uses in the area under consideration. And we look at potential uses. Most of what is developed is to the north and to the west, and that's the single or the townhomes within Coral Lakes. The potential uses is really sort of focused on the mixed-use development that is to the south. Staff finds that with that proposed City of Cape Coral owned tract to the south being mixed use with residential and commercial, staff finds that this would also be compatible. We don't feel that there's enough area and there's enough sort of land mass between these two sites where you're going to have adequate buffering, you're going to have some distance separation between the uses. So even if there are sort of the commercial or industrial uses that are located to the development on the south, you'll have buffering and you'll have some distance separation that should increase the compatibility between the proposed uses within the PUD and the area that is being developed to the south. The fourth standard is whether the proposed district will serve a community need or broader public purpose. The city is historically short, and it has been documented within studies and just sort of an analysis over the years many times over, that the city is short of both commercial and multifamily development. Staff does note that the site would have helped the commercial shortage. However, that land use has been changed, so therefore the ship has sort of sailed on this being commercial as it stands. And we had recognized that the site would add some multifamily development to the city, which would increase the stock and hopefully over the long term reduce the pricing of multifamily housing, which is certainly quite high at this time. And with that sort of vision in mind, that's why we had originally recommended that minimum density of 10 units per acre, is to ensure that within a site that is of decent size, 34 acres, and has good access, you would get enough sort of density in there that you would potentially add enough units to a development that you would try to alleviate this sort of growing housing cost issue that we have citywide. We can get into it later at the end between, during questioning regarding the applicant's proposed conditions. We can kind of go over staff's thoughts on them as well. But as it is right now, we'll just sort of present the staff report and the presentation as we have to you, and then whatever discussion we want to have with the conditions.
I appreciate that, because I was going to ask you about your perspective on the requested change on condition 7.
Yeah, and I figured we would just kind of get to that at the end. We can we can go over the 3 or 4 conditions that we've sort
Let's do it
of
that way.
discussed.
Thank you.
The next standard is the characteristics of the proposed rezone area are suitable for the use of permitted in the proposed district. We find that the maximum density that is allowed within the land use category is appropriate, given that it's a large site with frontage along a major arterial roadway. The site also has 2 access points, which is something that we look for with multifamily developments. We don't like to have multifamily area or sites where you're limiting your access to one entrance one way or another. It's not a great planning or transportation idea to utilize. And also you find that the police and fire also don't care for that either. They want to have at least 2 ingress, egress out of these types of sites in order to facilitate fire trucks or police cars getting into the site if they need to. Staff finds that the proposed multifamily uses would be a good fit in an area that's already developed with either single-family homes or some low-density multifamily. Staff finds that the site is large enough to accommodate the uses along with a robust recreational area, as we had sort of put in one of our conditions. And then staff also finds that the site would be compatible with that large city-owned property to the south that is proposed for a mixed-use development. And then last standard that we looked at is whether a district other than the district requested will create fewer potential adverse impacts to the existing uses in the area. And staff finds that the PUD district that is requested is actually probably the most compatible or most suitable to meet this standard, in that with the PUD process you can sort of tailor your uses, tailor the development with, between discussions between applicant and the staff to really sort of give the best possible development that you can. Outside, with traditional zoning, you're kind of limited to setbacks and uses. With the PUD process, and it kind of hits the standard, you're able to tailor this development so that it's really a high quality development that will accommodate all residents within the city of Cape Coral. So next we analyzed this for our comprehensive plan. We found that it's suitable. It meets several standards within this. Policy 1.15, with the zoning being consistent with the multifamily land use designation. We looked at it with policy 1.7, which is the multifamily siting criteria. Staff finds that it meets 2 out of the 4 multifamily siting criteria. There was some sort of not disagreement with what the applicant had stated regarding the transitioning to commercial uses. Staff find that it's not consistent with that currently, as you don't really have any existing commercial uses that are within the site. You don't know what exactly is going to be built in what capacity to the area to the south. That's why we found that it wasn't consistent with that. And then also with the assemblage opportunities, it's already sort of an assembled site as it is. So it's just sort of it's just the way that it's not consistent with that is just based upon that it doesn't have any other real areas to assemble with as it currently stands. Staff also finds that it meets policy 1.6 of the housing element, which would try to increase density and lower housing costs throughout the city. It also meets the policies within the transportation element regarding sidewalks and having some sidewalk criteria for residents to move around in. Then we looked at the PUD standards and criteria, which is in LDC section 347I. We found that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. It meets the uses and densities which are used to establish the PUD ordinance. It has dimensional standards, which would include setbacks, height, things like that. It does meet the minimum 25% open space that is required within the LDC. The master concept plan shows perimeter buffers around the entirety of the project. It shows some street standards in determining how wide the streets will be and what the access will be within there. There won't be any phasing that is proposed with this. There was no phasing plan included in the master concept plan. And then the last one that we looked at is, innovation and design. Staff found that the way that the master concept plan was submitted, there was some sort of lack of overall innovation within that design. We did include those conditions regarding the recreational amenity center, the sidewalks, and some of those features to sort of boost up that innovation and design criteria for the PUD and the master concept plan. So our recommendation is approval with conditions for PUD 2213. We did receive 3 general phone calls of inquiry, but they didn't indicate. It was mostly just kind of trying to figure out what was going on with this site. They were all residents within Coral Lakes. And then I also have the conditions as well. Some of these are fairly standard conditions that we do for master concept plans in terms of how we meet those. The first one is we're looking for them to maintain the consistency with the master concept plan. The second is the schedule of uses that we have recommended. Some of those, the ones that were brought up by the applicant were the minimum density, the recreational amenities center, the sidewalks, and we can discuss those at this time. The other ones are fairly pedestrian sort of conditions that are
We don't need
typical
to
to
go
these
through the
master
other ones.
concept plan.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, I apologize, but I would like to go through your response to, as we indicated, 7 through 10 as proposed by the applicant.
All right, so we'll start off with number 7. That was the minimum density requirement that we had. The reason that we had this, we mentioned previously, is that we wanted to ensure sort of a high enough density so that it would make enough of a dent within this sort of shortage of multifamily units that we have. The applicant, when they presented their proposed range of density between 6 and 10 units per acre, staff we would prefer to see a higher density within that. When they discussed that they had sort of met with the residents of Coral Lakes, and we had heard their concerns about having, 4-story buildings that could be within the foreground of that. We understood those concerns. They did indicate to us that originally we had heard that it was going to be 6 units per acre, staff's thoughts were you're basically just giving us a slightly hopped up sort of single-family development. When they indicated that there were going to be, a couple of the taller buildings that would reach that sort of 45 feet in height, staff thought that was sort of a good meeting ground between that. We would like to see it a little bit higher density just so you get a few more units in an appropriate location. But the range of the 6 units per acre to the 10 units per acre, staff finds that it's generally acceptable to that modified standard that they're looking to apply there.
Okay, thank you.
The second one was the sidewalks along the perimeter development. We put that condition in there to sort of increase the innovation design. We wanted to have some walking trails. Coral Lakes actually is nice in the sense that you have sidewalks throughout the community on both sides of the road, both sides of the local streets that run along Coral Lakes. Staff found that, we thought that we would try to recreate that within this RPUD area for the multifamily. When they indicated their concerns regarding you would potentially have sidewalks looking into people's backyards and things like that, we did understand those concerns. They showed us some of the pictures of what they were looking to do in terms of the internal sidewalks that were along the roadways. And one of our initial concerns about if you're just going to have sidewalks that were along the street is that it's not always an enjoyable experience when you have sidewalks along sort of, parking areas and people coming and going, and you want to have more of a nature feel to that. But when they when they showed us on their plan of where they were looking to locate their sidewalks and how it would be a continuous network through that, we also kind of agreed that there was sort of a common ground that was met with the original condition proposed by staff and what the applicant had provided as well. Condition number 9 was that recreational amenity center. We recommended the 5 acres in size just because it was a lower density development as it was. They were looking at around 10 units per acre. Staff thought that, first of all, there would be some extra room for the recreational amenity area. And one of the things that has been sort of a push from, citywide is we want to have developments that have more things for residents to do. We want to make sure that, especially if you're looking at doing a residential development that is catering towards senior citizens or that is age restricted, a lot of those residents are not going to want to have to, go very far for their amenities. They want to be able to have it on site. And we thought that the 5 acres, it was just sort of a number that we threw out there based upon the scale of what they were looking to do with their density. And when they came back to us and they kind of narrowed it down and focused it on what they would be providing. And when they showed us, they're going to give us 4 or 5 different things that would be, that go in there with the pool, with the pickleball, the dog walk area. We sort of agreed that with the specificity within those 2 acres, that was a pretty, that was a good meeting point for that condition. And then condition number 10 was the area utilizing that sort of preserve or that water feature down there. You've seen it in other sort of multifamily developments where they'll utilize their water features a little bit more. That was just another way to increase that, innovative design for this PUD, just to, utilize whatever sort of components that you have available to, on site. A lot of these kind of developments don't always have a nice water feature that you can utilize. But once again, they talked about not wanting to interfere with their water management district permit. And staff can understand that, and as long as there is some utilization of that preserve area and the green space that is on the sort of southeastern corner of the site, staff found that there was sort of a nice sort of middle ground, and that it wasn't just going to be unutilized open space, just as long as they're utilizing the components that they have to make this, a more attractive and a development that is definitely, utilized more by the residents that will go in there. So staff also agrees that as long as there is a specified condition of what they will put into that area, staff finds that what they're looking at is generally acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Is that it?
That is it, I'm done, sorry.
Okay, well, I know it's been a long day, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your presentation today. This is a public hearing. We have one lone member of the public who's observing or commenting, I'm not sure which. Did you want to share some thoughts with us, sir? Thank you. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. All right. And if you could just state your name for the record, please.
My name's Brad Welch, and I'm the president of the Coral Lakes Homeowners Association. Currently, April was our vote in at that point in time, and I did attend the meeting that they presented early on in reference to this. Representing the 500 homes within Coral Lakes, I can say truly that we do look forward to this development. We were basically here over a couple of times in concerns with the traffic situation. Obviously, if you're going to throw 350 homes in there, you're going to have at least 350 cars a day. We have a new development going in with the townhomes of 230 plus townhomes that are currently under construction, plus almost 500 homes within Coral Lakes. So now you're over 1,000 homes, and with the kids in Coral Lakes and the homeowners of both this development and whatever, we're looking maybe 2,000 cars a day moving in and out of. Now, I don't know how that somehow generates from a commercial aspect into residential aspects. That's still a lot of cars traveling in and out on Coral Lakes Boulevard or out the Del Prado exit. So the traffic light has become a contention upon a bunch of different developments. Obviously, I was here before with the one that we had. It was supposed to be a storage facility for the Coral Lakes development on the planned development. Well, that has gone away now. So now we have another one that's working with us at this time, and we want to make sure that in the event that the city does decide that they want to put a traffic light in there, that they will help share the expense of this traffic light. And we don't want to go down this route again in another year or so of saying we don't want to participate in the traffic light. So we've been promised a number of different things over many years. I've been a resident of Coral Lakes from the beginning. In 2007. I bought a home there. And we have been promised so many things over the time. And of course, nobody can imagine all the things that have happened to this country over that time. Now, currently our irrigation system is run by a number of pumps within Coral Lakes. All of our lakes are interconnected, and that's why the stormwater drainage plan and everything is placed into effect. We currently have a contract with the city to pump out 175 million gallons of water to rejuvenate the lakes during dry season. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to plan in. I did not hear anything in this talk in reference to irrigation at the time and how they planned on irrigating all of these properties. Whether they're going to actually put in a pump themselves, or are they going to try and piggyback off of us somehow, or just, I don't know how that irrigation system will work with them. Just excuse me, I wrote a bunch of things down over the course of time, and these gentlemen were kind enough to answer half of them. So recently, we've had some issues out at our park area in Coral Lakes with animals. We've seen a number of coyotes. We had to take a family of raccoons out of our pool house roof, and so a lot of animals are getting displaced because of all the construction and stuff. And I'm not sure if there's a way that we can control this during this building process.
I think that's something that probably staff and the applicant would be happy to sit down and discuss with you.
Okay.
I think that's a little past our jurisdiction today, sir.
Well, that would be great. And so that's the main concerns, I think, of the community. They would welcome the development. I think at the time they originally told us it was going to be a two-story development possibly. And now it's going to a single story with some multifamily housing up to 4 stories in the back. So we don't want to keep changing it so that we end up with a bunch of 4-story buildings, within the development. And we want to make sure that it's still the age-related and it will stay that age-restricted, at 55 plus, so that the multifamilies don't come in with younger people and stuff, and with more cars and more traffic and everything else. We've had a number of issues with vandalism within our development over the year, and it's been a little tough. And that's it. Other than that, I would like to stay in touch with the gentleman here. I know they did talk with my vice president about a week ago, and he sent me an email kind of outlining what they were talking about and said that they were still interested or still going to participate in the traffic light if so needed. But I'm not sure what this track that you were talking about earlier, track 10, I was waiting to hear what that was actually.
Well, that's a different hearing, so.
Yeah, that was going to be, so I'm not sure how that's going to play in to this one. But other than that, I appreciate your time, and I know everybody's hungry, so it's time to go.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you've been sitting here very patiently since about 8:30 this morning, and I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you attending. And it obviously is very important to hear the concerns and the kudos as appropriate for the applicant and for staff. So thank you for being generous with sharing your thoughts with us today, sir.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair.
I know I've seen you before, so thank you.
Yes.
I suspect I'll see you again, so.
You will, trust me.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. I'm going to close public comment at this time, bring it back to the applicant. Mr. Inch, did you indicated you had something further you might want to say? I'm happy to hear it.
I'll give you my card here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I do want to commend the applicant for having that interaction with the residents. If you're familiar with how I like to see things in my hearings, I'm a big advocate of interaction with the neighbors and the local residents.
Well, thank you very much for that. If I may expound on that just a little bit, that's one of the things that we always do, because there's so much misinformation that can be passed around. We try to keep that from happening. But the interesting thing that I've learned over the years is from time to time, someone in one of the communities will come up with a great idea that you can incorporate into your project. And it's kind of neat to hear those types of things, because we don't know necessarily everything, so we learn some things from time to time. And so we appreciate that interaction that we've had with the association. I haven't had a chance to meet this gentleman here as president, because we've been dealing with the vice presidents and I guess the treasurer, and we had their email addresses and phone numbers actually, so it was easier for us to get in touch with them, but I know they've been keeping him informed, so thank you very much for that.
And I saw that you just gave me your card, so I do appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. I want to touch on just a really couple things very quickly to go over and summarize our presentation. The market has indicated that in this particular area, for the particular project that we're proposing, it will work. It will be acceptable. There's a need for age-restricted, adult-oriented rental communities, which is what we're proposing. Second, we generate 82% less traffic than was proposed by the shopping center, which is a significant decrease. And I know that the gentleman before me spoke about the traffic that's still there. It would be way worse if the shopping center were to occur. And as Yuri Bacow outlined, most of our traffic is going to go directly onto Del Prado, which will be a plus as opposed to on Coral Lakes Boulevard. Having spoken of that, and in addition to working with the HOA and having them show up at various hearings and support us, we have a written agreement binding on us that requires that we participate in the maintenance of the entrance road into Coral Lakes for our fair share of that, in addition to the homeowners as well. So we're not just going to jump up there and start using the road and not pay for any of that. We pay for our proportionate share of maintaining that roadway. In addition to their surface water management system, to which our drainage goes into, we'll pay our fair share of those costs, and that agreement is in writing and documented at this point. Furthermore, we went through the effort to about a year and a half ago with the developer of the Coral Lakes to remove ourselves from the Coral Lakes Association so that our residents would not claim that they would have a right to go into the amenity areas for Coral Lakes. They were concerned that, hey, if you guys put these residents here, they're going to come in and use our pool and everything else. We've already got a lot of folks using it. We said, okay, We know how to solve that. Let's just make sure that our residents don't have a right to do so. Plus, there's a gate at Coral Lakes anyway, which we won't have the codes to. And we're providing our own amenity facilities to address that. So just want to give you a little bit more information on things that we've done to try to address some of the concerns that Coral Lakes residents might have. Staff has recommended approval. As Mr. Boyko mentioned, he went through conditions 7 through 10. Seems like we're in general agreement with the language we proposed. There was a mention of the traffic light issue, which I know is something that's in the PDP application, which we're not hearing today. But if that ever occurs, we'll pay our proportionate share just like everyone else will. So that's, something we're prepared to do. If the warrants ever justify the need for a traffic light there, we'll participate to whatever degree we're required to do.
Thank you. Anything else?
I want to just make sure, and I know this is not a subject of this hearing, so you may throw a rock at me. The PDP will be October 17th. Was that the date that it looks
That's
like we're
correct.
targeting?
Yeah, and I issue an order of continuance, so I'm sure you'll be provided with that.
Okay, and we'll look at whatever comprehensive plan issues that might seem appropriate in that regard. And we'll work with staff to ensure that we come up with information that addresses the concern that the hearing examiner had.
I can't consider that in this hearing, as you
Well, I
can imagine,
understand.
Mr. Ray.
Like I said, you're probably going to throw a rock at me, so now's probably the time. And
Don't have a rock, but I do have an empty bottle.
so I'll stand by if you have any other questions, but thank you very much for your time and for listening to us and allowing us to show our vision for this particular parcel of property.
I have no other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Boyko, anything else?
I have nothing else, Madam Hearing Examiner.
Okay, thank you. At this point then, I will close the hearing. It is 12:46, and I have only one more thing to announce, which is the date and time of our next hearing is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023, at 9 a.m. here in Council Chambers. We stand adjourned at 12:46. Thank you.